Quentin Corngay, my new producer, and I was wondering when I signed on. I thought maybe Leah had gone over to Planned Parenthood. No, I'm kidding you. Hey, that's a big story in the news. Planned Parenthood, less than 30 minutes, a child who was on the autism spectrum was reportedly able to get, cross-sex hormones. Parents are appalled, and I use that as a little vehicle just to let you know we're going to have some fun with Quentin Corngay, new producer who also works the Larry Connors show. And man, you must have to be taking some between Larry and me. Have you seen your psychiatrist yet? I mean, you're going to need some help there. No, I'm kidding. Larry's my best friend. Great guy.
No, yeah, too.
Welcome to the program, Quentin.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I
Nothing.
think we're going to talk about things including a speaker update. Seems like Jim Jordan getting some momentum. The jobs report out yesterday. Uh, Biden's new campaign issue. This is his new top line issue. Build the wall. Americans okay with censoring speech. I have a story on that. The Trump trial. We have to talk a little bit about that. And oh yes, the president's dog. And then there was the president's dog. Plenty of big name, big time issue guests this morning. Steve Gorham will be with us to talk about the collapse of the Green Revolution. We'll be talking about today is I think it's called Freedom Reading Day or Freedom. Yeah, I think it's Freedom Reading Day, and this is the culmination of the American Librarians Association book banning week. Yeah, they're pushing back on those of us who don't want pornographic, cartoon-like books in our children's schools. Virginia Cruda, of course, will join us. Tim Jones later on at 8:06, and Joe Briscato, who's a relationship and success manager kind of a guy. He's an expert in that. He'll be talking with us. I want to know about communications as it relates to the UAW strike, but especially the speaker thing and how that all blew up last week, something else. So the number is 314-912-1019 if you want to join in on the program, 314-1019. Quentin, why don't you introduce yourself to the Saturday morning audience? I know you've covered a couple of times when Leah was out, but tell us about yourself so people can get to know Quentin Corngay.
Yeah, well, like you've mentioned before, I work with Larry Connors. Been with him now for the past 3, 4 years. Not too sure anymore. Time just kind of blows by. Um, Working with Tony's show now on the weekends, Bluff City Outdoors. That's airing at 11, and then 12 on Sundays, and then Mystic Fits as well. So working on quite a few shows around here, but
Yeah.
from the area, born and raised out here in St. Louis. As you see, if you're watching on live, I have a Washington jersey on. Unfortunately, we took a loss, but huge Washington D.C. sports fan. So,
Now, how did that come about? Why does a St. Louis guy become a Washington, D.C. fan?
the family's from D.C. So,
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
one of the first pictures I have out the womb with the baby bib is a Redskins bib on. So,
Okay.
I was born into it.
Okay. Hey, so when did the family move here? I mean, were you a tot, or was this a move decades ago, or a relatively recent move?
Oh no, yeah. My parents were both in the military, both Air Force. So my dad was stationed out here when they had me, and
Oh, okay.
they got out here
Yeah.
as well. So I wasn't.
Out at Scott Air Force Base.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. Hey, so spending time in D.C. Uh, people I think that have formerly been fond of America's great cities, and in its own way, of course, DC is the capital of the nation. My gosh, when you go there and you look at the Washington Monument and you look at the Lincoln Memorial and your jaw drops in awe. You visit the Smithsonian, any of the great museums there.
Yes,
We
yes.
visited the National Archives. But I've talked to more and more people who have some kind of history in the cities, whether maybe they were born somewhere else and then went to live in the city or vice versa. Um, People have really become so disappointed and disillusioned with what's happened to American cities, both with law and order, public safety, and now with the migrant immigration. Do your folks ever talk about that, or reminisce about like sort of what was the great American city now that doesn't sort of look like its former self?
Well, not necessarily. My family, we don't really have those discussions or talk about that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
Um, I'm sure I see it. I'm in it, so I definitely see the difference. I'm not too sure if my family does or not.
Yeah.
Discussions we don't have.
I hate to see it, don't you? What's happened to St. Louis in
Oh my
terms of
goodness.
people that some of the entertainment areas, Ballpark Village isn't quite what
Hmm.
it used to be. The Great Washington Avenue Strip, we used to be that was a real highlight area, over in the Grove. And the last time I've been to any of those places or driven through them, haven't really hung out in a year or so, but um, I just don't get the sense that there's the vibrance there. And, despite a city that has so much to offer, a great symphony, the great, uh, Grand Square area with the Fox. And then, of course, you head out to the Art Museum and the zoo, which is still a world class and still a free place. Can you believe it?
I know.
The Science Center. But man, it just seems like downtown, people are just afraid to go there
I
anymore.
mean, yeah, not too long ago, I got my back window busted out on Wash
What?
Ave. Yeah, I mean it's too common. That's the unfortunate
Wow.
part.
Yeah. Well, when you were down there, is it a lack of police or is it just an overwhelming presence of crime or
Uh,
maybe a little bit of both?
I'm not gonna. It doesn't seem like there's a lack of police. Police doesn't have time for those little petty crimes. There's too much, you know, um, major crimes going on to be worried about. Oh, your
Yeah.
window got broken and like, car got
Hey,
stolen.
but that's not a trivial thing though, Quentin. I mean,
It
I,
doesn't
I
seem like it.
remember. No, I mean when it happens to you, it's a personal affront, and not only the cost and the aggravation involved, you got to clean up the mess, but it's in a way something about that cowardly act of
Hmm.
theft when you're not there to defend yourself or your
Right.
stuff. Um, I don't know.
But
It just to me that really troubles me, man. So you were okay. Did they take anything of value, or was it just sort of a vandalism event?
um, they took my wallet. They took
Ooh,
everything. Yeah, about my wallet. I had to replace my ID. They had my social security card in there, debit
oh my God,
cards, credit
oh my God,
cards. Yeah, I had to replace absolutely everything. So now I'm down
wow.
to, well, I mean, at least I'm down to three cards that I carry with me, my ID and two debit cards.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Holy cow. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Wow. Yeah, and to try to reconstruct all that stuff's not fun. I mean,
Oh no, not
that's a
not one bit.
well, you're a better man than I. I would be absolutely
Oh, I
ballistic if
was. I
that
mean,
happened.
yeah, I was,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
can't
You
can't
know,
do
I,
anything at
I
that point.
well, we talk about these being minor crimes, but I mean, it's
Hmm.
nothing new. I mean, there's always been bad guys, but
That's
it,
right.
it somehow this crime of property has been diminished in America as
Mm.
something that is like, well, you said it yourself. It's a minor crime. The prosecutors, well, that's a nonviolent crime, whatever. Well, wait a minute, wait a minute. At what point, if we keep moving the goalposts as to what's acceptable behavior in America?
I mean, they've moved it up to $1,000, right? In a lot of areas, you can steal up to a
Yeah,
thousand dollars and not get charged. I mean, it's crazy.
you saw that out in San Francisco. They
Yeah,
they they would raid those jewelry stores and take a little tennis bracelet or something that's worth
crazy.
$1,000. Okay, that's okay. And now they have. You see the Targets are closing stores.
Hmm.
CVS announced they're closing stores,
That's right.
and in the stores that are open, I haven't seen it in the St. Louis area, but you hear about in the other areas where these stories are really highlight that they've got everything behind walls. It's like going to the bank if you want anything, except for a very limited open access shop. I mean, it's just it's preposterous, and I don't know where it's going to end, man. But I just it's not the America I grew up in, not the America I know, and it makes me sad for generations to follow and until we get a handle on it.
Definitely. Same.
All right. Well, I think the same theory applies to build the wall. Suddenly, Joe, who was against the wall, is now okay with the wall, even though he doesn't think it's going to work. But let's play clip 5 and just remind folks how just a short while ago during the 2020 campaign, here's what Joe had to say about the wall.
On build that wall. Are you willing to tear that wall down?
No, there will not be another foot of wall constructed in my administration. Number one. Number two, what I'm going to focus on, the fact is that somebody in this group written a lot about the border, I'm going to make sure that we have border protection, but it's going to be based on making sure that we use high-tech capacity to deal with it. And at the ports of entry,
What
that's
about
where
the
all the
land
bad stuff is happening.
confiscations?
Okay, so there you go. There will be no wall. That's going to turn out in the wake of the announcement just last week when Mayorkas basically said in a message, I think the quote was, there is an acute and imminent need to build, and they didn't use the word border wall. It was like a high security or a security of a fence or something. He just can't bring himself to use the word wall. Um, and this is after this guy, Clip 6, among so many others, had just one after another for 2.5 years have been saying, no, don't worry, everything's fine. Here it is.
It is my testimony that the border is secure.
The president have worked very, very hard to implement a strategy when it comes to the border that is humane, safe, and has orderly enforcement.
Things are going at the border, sir.
Much better than you all expected.
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration.
We have responded with a model approach that has proven to work.
We have taken unprecedented action over the past year and a half to secure our border.
And we have a process in place to manage migrants at the border. We're working to make sure it's safe and orderly and humane.
The border is closed.
That goes
We agree
on
that
and on and
the
on.
border is secure.
Goes on and on and on. And after so many high-profile Democrats, including Mayorkas, who, I mean, he, along with the president, must be delusional. I mean, you know, they're out of touch with reality. He announced there's a present, acute, and immediate need to construct physical barriers and roads in the vicinity of the border. Now, of course, it gets better because what they've been doing with the money that they've been spending on the border up to now is processing. And then Shalonda Young, who's the director of the budget, OMB, this was what she said in 22, and this is what many of us are worried about when they say they're going to build a barrier. What will this be? A 3-strand barbed wire? What will it be? Like a little vinyl fence? What do they really mean here? Clip 7. This was her in March of 22 to tell you what their idea of border security and the funds dedicated thereto should be used for.
There was $1.9 billion that was in this most recent omnibus bill that's been carried over to finish the border wall. Is this administration going to finish the border wall?
Just so we're clear, the $1.9 billion wasn't rescinded. New money was not provided. The administration had a policy asking Congress to rescind that funding from 2021. Congress did not. But Congress did not provide additional money. And we are spending, as GAO has told this committee and others, that OMB, the president, the administration is acting within the bounds of the Empowerment and Control Act, and we are spending, obligating prudently.
So this administration just continues to withhold the $1.9 billion that was appropriated several Congresses ago that has stayed in the account.
Thankfully, GAO has agreed that we are obligating prudently under the law.
And what are you obligating it to? Because you're not doing any construction. So are you just paying people to hold the rusting materials?
No, we're actually doing environmental restoration, something that was woefully lacking. We're also doing community consultation. I think that's important to many of you who represent constituents.
Oh, well, Quentin, I'm sorry that I criticized the administration. They're doing environmental reconciliation, and they're doing community consultation with $1.9 billion. Wow. I mean, this is just stunning stuff. These people are out of their minds, and now they have really come full circle because they are getting it from all sides. Governor Hochul, the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of New York City, the mayor of Los Angeles. I mean, from all of their own troops, they're getting mutiny on the bounty when it comes to the border. We'll see where it all goes. Well, the other thing that this administration is clueless about is how the Biden administration's energy policy, the green movement in general, has been apocalyptic for our economy, for our personal economies, between $2,000 and $4,000 down in terms of essentially wages lost and buying power lost since the administration began. Reported the other day that savings are now at pre-pandemic levels. People have used all of the savings they had and then some, living on credit cards, and they continue to double down on the green energy. Well, that's going to collapse, according to my next guest. I talked to Steve Gorham, who's a expert in this area, has written a new book. We'll talk to him in just a minute. Here on News Talk STL 1019-94.1, it's the Randy Tobler Show. Quentin Corngay on board and in control. Thank God. Because my wife reminds me I rarely am. We'll be back in a minute.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
There's something dangerous happening in America now. The MAGA movement.
What Biden is doing are things that California was doing.
We are going to have to break the backs of the teachers' unions.
This is News Talk STL.
We're thrilled to be here to take back this state from the radical left lunatics.
History's watching.
Our country's being destroyed.
The world is watching.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
The more people vote, the more engaged the whole nation becomes.
And newstalkstl.com.
This is Rob with St. Louis Bathroom Renovation, and we'd like to let you know you don't have to maintain the grout in your home anymore. The grout on the floor or in your shower or bath area. How would you like zero grout in your bathroom? At St. Louis Bathroom Renovation, we focus on grout-free options for your bathroom. If you hate cleaning grout, St. Louis Bathroom Renovation, 314-477-6476. 314-477-6476. Give us a call.
What's for dinner? Burgers?
After last week, no thanks.
Avoiding foods due to fear of diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools? It may not be just stomach issues. It could be EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. EPI can cause uncomfortable symptoms because it's a condition where the pancreas doesn't release enough digestive enzymes to break down food. But EPI can be managed. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor about your symptoms. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? A man age 50 non-tobacco user can obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $110 per month. Level rate for 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rate for 20 years. If you're a smoker, there are great rates available for you as well. Call Term Busters for a quote. 1-800-908-7636. You're probably paying more than you should. Call 1-800-908-7636. Remember, call Term Busters. 1-800-908-7636. Sample rate for preferred non-tobacco rate class. Exam required to qualify.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Dealing with storm damage? Don't panic. Eureka Contracting and Roofing is here to help. With the recent storms, they understand it can be overwhelming. Remember, you don't have to rush into signing with the first door-to-door salesman. Don't let pushy sales tactics force you into a contract you're not comfortable with. Before making decisions, take a moment. Give the folks at Eureka Contracting and Roofing a call like I did for a no-pressure inspection. They'll assess the damage, determine if it's insurable. If it is, they'll guide you through the insurance process, and your only out-of-pocket expense will be your deductible. Eureka Contracting and Roofing, 636-938-ROOF. EurekaContracting.com.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
What I want, you got, and it might be hard to handle. Well,
This is Larry Connors. Right now, you're listening to Dr. Randy Tobler. Informative, engaging, enjoy. And I invite you to listen to the Larry Connors USA Daily Report, Monday through Friday at 6.
Well, we're back, and it's great to talk with Steve Gorham, who has written, I think, a seminal book in the battle for sanity in the whole green climate insanity and the religion that is climatism. Steve Gorham joins me now. His book, Green Breakdown, The Coming Renewable Energy Failure. Steve, thanks for being with me.
Hey, Randy, great to join you.
You know, as I was reading through the book, I haven't made it all the way through, but I got to tell you, it's so packed with data. And for people on the progressive left who literally worship at the altar, I mean, this is a religion for these people. They're the ones that are always saying, whether it's, the COVID-19 stuff, follow the science. I couldn't think of a book more chock full of science to talk about our energy history, really, and then in the context of this insanity and where it may be leading us. I mean, it's a job well done, I have to tell you. And, of course, that speaks to your background, which is as an electrical engineer, right?
Yes. Yeah, well, thanks for the kind comments. Yeah, I set out to write a book on the energy transition that's being demanded. We have basically the wealthy nations of the world, the United States, Europe, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and some others are spending about $1 trillion a year to try and transition from hydrocarbon fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas to renewables. And they say the world has to do this, including the other 6/7 of the world that are really trying to develop in a normal way. But it's really something that it's beyond a reach out goal. It's more like a wish and a prayer. This is not something that's going to happen. Wind, solar, and biofuels just cannot deliver the same kind of capability that we have in hydrocarbons, which run our world basically today. And so this is all going to come to a breakdown over the next decade or two.
And I was really curious. It was funny. We have a friend of the show and a personal friend of Brian and mine, Tony Lupo, who is a atmospheric science professor and the head of that department at the University of Missouri here. And we've talked with Tony at length about some of the myths that are, espoused on the left. And it was funny. Once in a while, when I get a book, I just take and, open up to a random page. I forget what page it was on. But you mentioned the cyclic climate change that happens both on a long-term and a medium-term basis. And I thought, wow, Tony, if you're listening, you got to read this book, man. This is great. Because what's the guy's name? Milankovitch, the guy on the long cycle change. So you're talking about that and how those kind of natural realities are being ignored by these folks on the one hand, right? And they're sort of overshooting in terms of what this all means and who's responsible for it.
Well, that's absolutely true. One of the most meaningless statements in our society today is climate change is real. That's like saying water is wet. I've never met a person who doesn't think the climate changes. It changes all the time. And as you say, we have long-term, medium-term, and short-term cycles. The long-term cycles have to do with the tilt of the Earth's axis, our orbit around the sun, and they are postulated to be caused by a guy by the name of Milutin Milankovitch, who was a Serbian astronomer, and they explain the last 4 ice ages we have, and they're probably the leading theory, but it talks about these cycles every 20,000 to 100,000 years that radically change Earth temperatures. Then we have medium-term cycles about every 1,000 or 1,500 years, which are probably driven by the sun. And back 1,000 years ago, we had trees growing in southwest Greenland, where the Vikings settled. There aren't any trees there today. It's cooler now than it was 1,000 years ago. And then we have short-term cycles, like the El Nino Southern Oscillation, which produces either an El Nino or La Nina, and changes global temperatures. So we have cycles in the Pacific, the Atlantic, the Indian, the Arctic. All of these areas, we have temperatures all the time. It's been going on for all of history. Yet people say that the 1 degree Celsius change we've had since 1880 in global surface temperatures is some kind of a disaster, some kind of a catastrophe. it really is remarkable and shows an ignorance of what really happens to the earth.
We're talking with Steve Gorham, whose latest book is The Green Breakdown, the coming renewable energy failure. Now, we had booked the interview, and then I saw a report. First I saw the report that Biden and his administration keep doubling down on just their assault on fossil fuels and its secondary, spin-offs that we all know now, which are the economy that's tanking while India and China ignore the green revolution and, they're cleaning our clock economically. But, and then, so Biden is going to outlaw, anything gas in your house, right? Whether it's a furnace, and they're going to make dishwashers have to be so darn energy efficient that they're not going to be dishwashing. You can't cook with gas anymore. But then I saw that the predicted brownouts that were supposed to happen this year came close, but didn't happen because the technology's working. Batteries saved the day, Steve. So, I mean, do you have to write a new book and say, hey, maybe I was wrong? I don't know. I'm kidding you. You know that.
I think we're going to get there. Down in Texas, by the way, they issued 10 electricity shortage alerts in the last 2 months. Mm-hmm. They basically told people 10 times, don't plug in your EV, stop running your air conditioner, or we won't have enough electricity. I mean, and they blame it on the climate. When it gets hot, they say, well, this is the climate's fault and we don't have to keep the power up anymore. But you're right. There are three big driving areas from the government that they're trying to impose on everybody. The first is they want everybody to switch to electric appliances, get rid of your gas stove, your gas furnace. The Department of Energy is putting standards in place which are going to outlaw a lot of the gas stoves. Second thing that's going on is we have the Environmental Protection Agency is tightening carbon dioxide emission standards from cars and also mileage standards. And they aren't banning gasoline cars, but what is going to happen is by 2035, it's going to be impossible to produce a line of gasoline cars if these trends continue. And then the third thing is the EPA has introduced carbon pollution standards for power plants. They did that in May. And again, they are trying to force power plants either to close down or to capture carbon dioxide. And by the way, Missouri is actually a great place for that. You get 78% of your power from coal, 7% from gas, 6% from nuclear. You have amongst the lowest electricity in the country, the lowest in the Midwest, about a little more than 12 cents a kilowatt hour. The average of the nation is 15 cents a kilowatt hour. And so the utilities in Missouri are keeping your costs low for citizens.
Not for long, really, though, with these policies, right?
That's right. But I think Missouri is probably going to, I'm predicting here that Missouri and other states are going to join a lawsuit against the EPA. The last one on the Clean Power Plan was overturned by the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court basically said, you can't do this. You got to go to Congress to get this kind of a mandate. So I think that's going to happen again. But these policies, and this is one of the reasons we're going to have a breakdown. I think people are going to push back and say, hey, my prices are going way up. I'm getting electricity blackouts. I don't have the freedom to buy a gasoline car anymore. And the other thing is transnational energy shocks, which we've seen in Europe over the last 2 years, and that has created carnage with industry and homeowners and everything else.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, we're talking with Steve Gorham, and it's simply Steve, G-O-R-E. Oh, I hate to use that word like Al Gore. And then Ham, Steve Gorham, at Steve Gorham on Twitter, now X, and that's the website as well, stevegorham.com. And you're listening, folks, to an electrical engineer, an MBA, who was vice president and general manager of a big engineering company with sales of 300 million, 350 employees. So you know the industry, you know electricity, you get this. This is not a talking head like Randy Tobler. I mean, this is someone who knows this and the hazards of where they're going and pushing this too far. The big question on the table, Steve, for you, do you believe that eventually we can and should get to more and more electric vehicles, electric, chainsaws, electric lawnmowers, and where appropriate, but sort of like the evolution of the light bulb, where, okay, we had those sort of funky fluorescents for a while, and then gradually, LEDs, which I think are pretty cool, and the price is coming down. But that's been largely market-driven. I mean, I know the recent rule, banning all, the incandescents, but that seemed to me to be more of a reasonable, mostly market-driven evolution of technology. Do you envision the same thing when it comes to renewable energy, and where does nuclear fit into that?
Well, I don't really. And the other thing about a green energy transition, not only is it poor economics and poor for citizens, but it's based on a false premise. It's based on the idea that carbon dioxide is pollutant, a pollutant, that carbon dioxide is causing dangerous global warming. I think your Professor Lupo would probably agree with me that the evidence is very weak for that. Mm-hmm. Climate is dominated by natural factors, not what's coming out of your neighbor's SUV or a power plant. And so it's very likely we will have cooling for a couple of decades. It's very difficult to predict future temperatures. We've had cool periods in the past. If that occurs, it's going to be very difficult to justify a lot of these policies. Mm-hmm. But and the other thing I don't like about this is everything is a mandate. We have to mandate that EVs, you have to buy an EV, and that is not good for many people. It's very expensive. If they're traveling distances, it isn't good either. If they don't have a charger at their apartment, it's not good. If they don't have a heated garage in the winter, it's not good. There are very many problems with EVs. They are penetrating U.S. and world markets. But to force everybody to get one because we think we can stop the oceans from rising, that's where we've really gone off the track.
And as you know, there's a lot of controversy over whether, after you factor in the mining, the identification, and the mining of these trace rare earth minerals, and the manufacture of the batteries, not to mention the disposal of them. I mean, I'm not sure that this is net, carbon neutral in the end. I'm just not sure.
Well, that's that is one of the questions. And I mean, the question ought to be asked, are electric vehicles environmentally friendly? And if you look at the supply chain, the answer is no. Mm-hmm. Electric vehicles, according to the International Energy Agency, use 6 times the special metals of a gasoline car. Wow. And that means copper, nickel, manganese, cobalt, and lithium. And these metals are mined in developing nations. And then when the ore is obtained, most of that ore is processed in China. Mm-hmm. And so what you have, for example, in the case of cobalt, which is used in vehicle batteries, the Democratic Republic of Congo is the biggest producer of a miner of cobalt in the world. In Africa, they use child labor and forced labor to get that ore out of the mines. And then it's shipped to China where it's processed. And in China, they have vast areas of land that have been destroyed. They have a place called Rare Earth Lake. And as far as you can see, the land is polluted from metal tailings. Then it goes into batteries and it's shipped to the U.S. so that you can put it in a Tesla and drive it. That's great, except they don't see the environmental damage all along the chain that all these metals are causing. And so that is hidden from the average EV buyer.
Not to mention the national security threat to China planting its flag on every place that there's a trace mineral, whether it's in the Arctic, the Antarctic, Congo, the China Sea. It doesn't matter. And this becomes then a potential real cudgel for international conflict, right? Because if they own and we've gone there, they then own our economy and can own us.
So the United States is the biggest producer of oil in the world, the biggest producer of natural gas in the world. We ship it all over. Our price of natural gas is 1/4 what it is in Europe and Asia for our industry. So what does the administration want to do? Oh, we got to get rid of all of that, and we got to buy all these metals from China. That, from as you say, from a political point of view and from a good of the nation point of view, very, very poor policy.
Yeah.
So we hope that this changes, and I think it will eventually with this green breakdown. But we could go through a lot of years of pain for citizens because of this.
Well, the momentum may be shifting, and it's not going to happen overnight because that ship heading towards that metaphorical Titanic for our economy, for our security. It's been full steam ahead, and to turn it around 180 degrees is going to take people reading books like yours and getting advocacy based on that. Green Breakdown, the coming renewable energy failure. I can recommend that for your reading, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure it's available at all the usual places. Right, Steve?
Thank you, Randy. Yes, Amazon. There's also ebooks available, and if they want a signed copy, they can go to my website, Steve Gorham, GOREHAM.com, and I'll send them a signed copy.
Beautiful. Hey, thanks for writing the book, and thank you for being with me.
Yeah, great, Randy. Anytime in the future, there's a lot more to talk about.
Hey, let's do it. We'll schedule something. Thanks so much.
All right, there he is, Steve Gorham, and I don't know. I was going to go out and look at a Tesla right after the show today. I guess I won't be doing that. No Teslas for me. They're going to take my 2014 Ford F-250 from my cold, dead hands. I don't see myself driving an EV. Maybe so, but I'm not sure it's net good for our environment. Certainly not good for our economy. That's for sure. Just ask the United Auto Workers, as they're going to be out of a job. Hey, when we come back, we're going to have a little psychological fun. Not to make a diagnosis on the inhabitants of the White House, but connect a few dots and ask you if you agree that maybe there's something there, what their behavior tells us about their own personalities. We'll be back on the Randy Tobler Show in just a few.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. This is 101.9 and 94.1.
I have to tell you, if this is how they're going to behave, I'm rethinking my position.
News Talk STL.
Retirement planning used to be easy. You put in your 40 years with the company, get the gold watch, and life's good, right? Wrong. Randy Tobler here. Planning for retirement today involves balancing critical decisions regarding your investments, pensions, Social Security, and more. That's why I'm urging you to start planning now. It's also why you should connect with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. They bring a combined 100 years of wealth management experience to help you with your retirement plan. You can hear Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert every Saturday morning at 9 during On the Money here on News Talk STL 1019. Their team is ready to help you design your retirement plan with the care and commitment you deserve. Request your complimentary retirement plan consultation today at clearpathinvesting.com or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer.
Hey everyone, this is Nick Schroer from Stand and Fight every Sunday 8 to 10 p.m. If you need tree removal, storm damage, repairs to trees, tree trimming, pruning, if your bushes are out of control, call River City Tree Service. Free quotes right now, 314-270-8071, 314-270-8071. Professional tree services performed by ISA certified arborists. Request your free quote at rivercitytreeservice.com.
We all know the healthcare system's broken. It's not about you. It's about the code, the bill, the 7-minute appointment. Hi, it's Dr. Randy Tobler, and I've developed a better way that restores old-fashioned values with a holistic approach to your healthcare. That means affordable, available, no copay or deductible primary care. And with my 30-plus years as an OBGYN, there's added value for women and couples. Whether it's a new or nagging problem, you need a second look at a troubling diagnosis, or simply want a trusting, relationship-based healthcare experience, give us a look at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Our mission is to provide exceptional, accessible, and truly affordable care where the focus is on you, not insurance denial and cookbook medicine experts. And with your membership, there's a number of perks, including hundreds of free meds, in-office ultrasound, common diagnostic tests, and more. Interested in seeing me or learning more about healthcare the way it ought to be? Schedule an appointment or a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Are you tired of hard chlorinated water drying your skin out, tasting bad, and ruining your fixtures? Jones Air and Water Treatment has a solution to this pollution. Our Hydratech H2O leaves you with great tasting, soft water at all fixtures in your home with one unit. Call Jones Air and Water at 636-899-1040 or visit us on the web at joneswater.com. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air and Water, 636-899-1040 or joneswater.com on the web. Call us now.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Good morning, everybody. Tony Colombo and Katie Fitzpatrick here.
Thanks for listening to The Randy Tobler Show here on News Talk STL. And don't forget to join us every weekday at 2 p.m. for Colombo and Katie.
Also, keep it here for my Saturday morning show, the Bluff City Outdoor Show, today at 11. Now, back to Dr. Randy Tobler. Love you, Doc.
Well, we're here at the Liberty Lair, and as I drove up, my wife and I drove up down the Rock Road, about a half a mile to the cabin here that sits on Lake Liberty. I renamed her from the previous owner, Lake Liberty. And across the way is an old dead tree. I mean, it's a big dead tree, and so it's beautiful, sort of statuesque, with still standing. And as we drove up, Quentin, as God is my witness, I'm not kidding you, we have a pair of nesting bald eagles on the property. Been here for the last 2 or 3 years. We're so blessed. The bald eagles, as we drove up last evening, they circled and we saw them soaring, and they landed on the perch across the lake on Lake Liberty. It doesn't get better than that. I'm hoping maybe that was some kind of a sign from God that maybe things are going to change in this country. I keep looking for signs that some sanity is going to come to D.C. and to the White House and to the Capitol and to leadership in general in this country. Well, and then, so I started thinking, my mind goes in crazy ways when I start to connect dots about what's going on in our world and the politics and the culture. And I thought, what does it tell us about behavior? And we played it in the first segment where Joe Biden just 3 years ago said during the campaign, no wall. I remember George Herbert Walker Bush back in the campaign in 88. No new taxes. No new taxes. Read my lips. No new taxes. And then he caved and there were new taxes. Okay, but he caved. And he actually justified it, and he was humble about it. He said, well, I made a deal with the devil. In that case, it was the Democrats, because they said there were going to be spending cuts, and there weren't. But I won't relitigate history, although we should learn from that. Don't make a deal with the devil Democrats, because they're not going to keep their end of it. Just do not do it, Jim Jordan. That you made a deal with the Democrats in a way, Kevin McCarthy. You made a deal with Matt Gaetz when you allowed one vote to motion to vacate. Look how that worked out for you. Don't make a deal with people that are your enemies and that are not reasonable people that really you can trust. At any rate, I digress. So remember, Biden said no new wall, and then last week Mayorkas and Biden decide there's going to be a new wall, and Biden actually though said, I don't believe in the walls, but the money was appropriated and we have to do it. So they waived 26 different regulatory constraints on building a wall, and they're going to be some kind of a barrier, in the words of Mayorkas. Not a wall, a barrier. I don't know what that means. Maybe it'll be like some twine with some sticks, poked in the ground. Maybe that's what they mean by a wall and a barrier. But there's a certain obstinance there. Then we move to the president and first lady's dog. You got this crazy dog, Commander. And Quentin there was 11 reported biting incidents of White House of Secret Service, and a couple more of personnel, including, you saw the picture, it was all over, it's viral, where the guy that worked there for years and years and years over administrations, the groundskeeper. This dog's rabid, for all I know. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Quentin, if your dog bit one person, you'd probably have a civil suit and maybe some kind of a misdemeanor charge in your local community. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, definitely after a second bite. I think they get one free bite. If they show any aggression, and if they show any prior history of biting, on the second one, well, yeah, you're liable to a case. You're liable to, that something needs to happen.
Out of here.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. So you got to move it down the road, right? Okay. Well, then, so I started thinking psychologically I always wonder what it is that drives people to do the funny things that people do. And I thought, okay, so you've got a defiant administration who, despite all evidence to the contrary, continues to hammer on the fossil fuel industry, no matter that their citizens, our country, our citizens are just getting crushed economically, and personal finances are in shambles. Okay, inflation up. The jobs were up yesterday. That's the initial report. They always downgrade the previous report. So in a few months, it'll be downgraded. But it was remarkably high. Hospitality and leisure up. I don't know why people are spending wildly on hospitality and leisure when they're driving their credit cards up on discretionary money. Maybe it's pent-up demand from the lockdowns. I'm not sure of that one. But I thought, man, they just keep doubling down. People, hordes coming across the border, rushing in and ruining American cities, overwhelming hospitals and law enforcement and social services. It's a disaster. And they keep doubling down. And I ran across this. And then the dog. They keep bringing the dog back, even though the dog's biting people. It's not good press. It's not good behavior. I got to thinking, maybe they've got ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. I wonder if maybe that's what they have. Angry and irritable mood, often and easily lose temper, frequently touchy and easily annoyed by others. Have you seen the president's news conferences? Often angry and resentful. Now, that could be a sign of dementia as well. Hurtful and revengeful behavior, says mean and hateful things when upset, tries to hurt the feelings of others and seeks revenge. Vindictive. What do you think of that? I mean, I think maybe they've got that. And then it got better. Quentin, it gets better. To evidence in support of my theory that they may suffer from mass oppositional defiant disorder. Something in the air, in the swamp, in the water in D.C., I don't know what it is, among Democrats. Whatever water the Democrats, and in particular they're drinking at the White House, maybe there's some ODD going on. Then I run across this story from the Daily Mail. This was just from this February. A study has found that dog owners will often mirror relations with their furry friends. Now, watch me. Most of the article is about if you have a furry friend who's open and compassionate and lovable and licks you every time you walk into the house, like most dogs, that their owners are often warm and fuzzy and huggers and lovers, and you know how it is. They might benefit greatly from presence in their dogs. A functional relationship with a dog can have benefits, they say, and then embedded deep in the article. They looked at like 20 different studies looking at the relationship between owners and their dogs. This is rich stuff. The researchers analyzed literature to see which personalities and attachment styles were associated with functional and dysfunctional human-dog relationships. Listen to this. Dog personality traits that are associated with their owners include when they're compassionate, energy, affection, intelligence, openness, agreeableness, and training. However, those that are antisocial dogs, antisocial, territorial, do not engage in training, have a tendency to destroy objects, were associated with you can't make this up. This is not from the bee. In addition, neurotic and avoidant attached owners who do not care what others think of them tended to have more aggressive pets. Bam! Bam, Quentin. Done. I nailed it, huh? What do you think?
That's a great study. I can't dispute that one bit.
So I'm thinking that this interaction and behavior and tolerance of the dog commander, while the dog bites Secret Service agents, and everyone has this outcry. Everyone's looking from America, newsrooms. The American people are aghast. They're horrified. If my dog continually bit people, our dogs tend to want to jump up on people. They love them. They just can't get enough of being around people, so they want to jump. And we have to watch. But I mean, they're lovers. These dogs wouldn't hurt a flea. I think it tells us something about the Bidens. I really do. I think they're vindictive, neurotic. I think it fits. I don't know. Well, that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. I don't care what they say. Why don't you give me a call and tell me if I'm all wet? 314-912-1019, and we'll mix it up at the top of the hour. Coming up next hour, talk with Nicole Solis about the book banning week and Virginia Cruda. You're listening to The Tobler Show on News Talk STL.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Everybody has a right to have their opinion and voice their opinion.
Live and local.
I always approach it from this standpoint. Leftist malfeasance is presupposed.
This is News Talk STL.
Hey, Tim Jones here with Tony Colombo for our friends Rodney and Jen Wallner at the Wallner Home Selling Team. If you're thinking about taking advantage of the market and selling your home, don't wait. Call the Wallners now. Put St. Louis's #1 home selling team to work for you. Rodney and Jen have the experience and work ethic that sets them apart from all the rest. That's why they sell 15 times more homes per year than your typical realtor and have so many qualified buyers right now. They'll guarantee to obtain you an offer. The results, Tony, speak for themselves.
That's right, Tim. In fact, I recently benefited from those results personally. My wife and I couldn't be happier with the job the Wallners did for us, selling our old home in less than 2 days for significantly more than we were asking for and finding us the perfect new home. Like so many others, we loved working with Rodney and Jen, the Wallner Home Selling Team with Berkshire Hathaway. So if you're thinking about selling your home, don't wait. Call the Wallners now at 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD.
Wow, that was my reaction when I walked into Napoli C, now open on the streets of St. Charles, right next door to Napoli 3. And Napoli C is like walking into a 2-level submarine. Fish just outside the portholes. The menu is going to be filled with various seafood, lobster, crab. Good luck with choosing. Napoli C is now open on the streets of St. Charles. Join me at any Cafe Napoli. Clayton, Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, or right next door, Napoli C.
The Vic Porcelli Show. Here's the host of Wheel of Audio Clips, Vic Porcelli.
Thank you, Jim Ogden, very much. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to our studio audience for coming. I get sick of myself. I swear to God. I can only imagine somebody who listens to the show. I'm just sick of myself. Somebody had a song called Sick of Myself.
I touch myself? You talking about that one?
Only at night, Ken. Oh, you talking about song? That was the Divinyls. Sorry. I thought you get into my personal life.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
It's a bully, but we aren't afraid of a fight. It's elusive, but our focus never fades. It's deadly, but we were born to defeat cancer. You may not have heard of us, but our work has helped millions impacted by cancer. We are the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We are leaders in advancing breakthroughs in immunotherapy, genomics, and personalized medicine. This research saves lives. After 65 years of fighting blood cancers, we've arrived at a game-changing belief. The cures for cancer are in our blood. The drugs and treatments we've developed for blood cancer.
HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Palestinian terrorists in the Gaza Strip have announced the beginning of a new operation.
What happened is like surprised barrage of rocket fired by the militant group Hamas as early as 6:30 in the morning. Saturday is like a normal working day, so people were out in the street. Kids were going to school. They were surprised by the explosions and the number of rockets fired. So far, the Hamas militants, they said they have fired as many as 7,000 rockets since 6:30 in the morning towards the Israeli southern and middle area.
As the BBC's Rushdie Abalouf reporting, the Israeli military has put the country on a war alert and began counterattacks. There's growing opposition among some Republicans to sending more aid to Ukraine. Congressman Mike Turner blames Democrats for loading up previous bills with wasteful spending.
The Ukraine defense has been funded through a Democrat administration and through Nancy Pelosi's prior funding bills. And those are Democrat bills, which means they're loaded up. They have more money in them than they need.
Congressman Turner chairs the House Intelligence Committee. He was interviewed this week by the Salem Radio Network.
5, 4, 3, 2,
1.
An announcer counting
We
down
have
to lift off
ignition.
for United Launch Alliance Atlas rocket at Cape Canaveral on Friday. Amazon launching the first test satellites for its planned internet service. The 2 test satellites now in orbit. Elon Musk's SpaceX had a head start over Amazon. It's already launched more than 5,000 of its internet satellites, known as Starlinks, using its own Falcon rockets to hoist them into orbit. This is townhall.com.
Dr. Gorka here, and I want to talk to you for a minute about the 100% drug-free Relief Factor. We all deal with aches and pains in our day-to-day lives, and I have had my fair share, including injuries like a detached quad muscle that I can tell you fell into the category of really bad pain. But I've been able to manage the pain by taking Relief Factor. It helps your own body to attack and fight off sources of inflammation, the source of most of our aches and pains, and I've loved it for years now. Almost 70% of the more than 500,000 people who have tried Relief Factor end up ordering more. That's because it works for them the way it worked for me. Isn't it time for you to get out of pain? Your first step to becoming pain-free should be to order the 3-week quick starter pack for the discounted price of only $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com, call 800-4RELIEF to find out more.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
This is Christina Straight with Straight Realty reminding you why pay more than 4. In 2003, we had a dream to start a real estate company that would revolutionize the real estate market. Now, 20 years later, after navigating through the many markets' ups and downs, we know exactly how to help you in this challenging time. I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty. Don't give away your hard-earned equity. Give us a call today, 314-441-4444, 314-441-all-4s. And remember, why pay more than 4?
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
We know you have lawns to mow, work sites to build, fields to manage, and jobs to finish. With over 100 years of experience, Seidenstricker Nobe will be with you every step of the way. Our customers are the center of everything we do. Find affordable pricing, low monthly payments, and easy financing options on all our John Deere equipment. With 27 locations to serve you, Seidenstricker Nobe Partners is your source for everything John Deere. snpartners.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss as part of our lineup every week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. And in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
Sergeant Betsy Smith with the National Police Association on the increasing street crime in blue cities. Soft on crime.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Second hour of the Tobler Show on a brisk October morning. Boy, autumn is here. The colors are changing. The leaves are changing, and and the Mizzou is playing when 11:30 today. I think
11 a.m.
They've been playing out of their minds, man. It's fun to watch that team. I think getting an offensive coordinator has made a huge difference. You? What do you think, Quinn?
I haven't taken notice, so I'm a huge Alabama fan. I was down. Well, I was just down there for a year, and that kind of changed me.
Yeah,
Just being down there around a winning culture. Mizzou, until the playoffs come, I don't pay attention to any SEC team, any other team. There's no point unless they make some noise. And I understand Missouri, and I might take some slack for it, but I haven't watched them one bit. I see that what they're doing. I see they're looking good, but I don't know. Until you play Alabama, until you play a team of that caliber, are you really that good?
Well, no, yeah. Hey, I can tell Quentin's a truth teller. You're right. I mean, look, what are they 5-0, and okay, they haven't really played a big name team now. LSU, I think they're ranked roughly equally in the rankings within a couple stages. But you're right. Until you compete, even if you don't win, but until you compete successfully with Bama or Georgia or
Ohio
name the team.
Yeah.
Or Ohio State, right.
I mean,
so
because then
we'll
we'll
have to see where it ends up.
Real quick, we'll just get an example like TCU last year in the national championship where they did get completely blown out. You put Bama in that position, it's a much better game, much better playoffs. But I digress.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, you're right. And I have to admit it, I'm sort of a fair weather fan. I don't lose too much sleep over what's going on in the sports world. I do enjoy though seeing what happened to that young man Brady Cook when I don't know whether it was a head fake on the part of the coach, just a coaching maneuver, or whether he was real. But he played Sam Horn and played, he basically challenged Cook, said, hey, you're not entitled to this job. It's a good life lesson for a young man to learn, right? In that you're not entitled to anything. You need to earn it. And he's so far has answered the bell. And I just, from a human interest story, I'm glad to see that. And I think it's wise for Drinkwitz to realize that, man, you may want to do everything and be everything to everyone, but when you're the head coach, you probably need to be the head coach and hire yourself a coordinator and that can, undistracted, call some plays. So it's good to see. We'll see how they do today. I wonder if there was a curfew last night.
They always have curfew.
I don't know.
They will always have curfew, especially on game nights.
Yeah.
If they're on the road.
Let me put it another way. Did they observe the curfew last night? That's maybe more accurately stated.
I would hope so. G1 athletes.
Yeah, that's right. We'll have to see. Hey, breaking this morning, guys and gals, this is interesting. In some amazing surprise and just, I mean, the pictures on this, I'm going to post this up on the website. Attack in southern Israel, Hamas from the Gaza Strip has used motorized paragliders. Picture an elongated sail on which is suspended a guy or two people in one picture with, it looks like AK-47 rifles. I mean, these are real assault rifles, not what the Democrats call assault rifles. With like a fan behind it, sort of like what you see in the Everglades, going across the Everglades, propelling this paraglider with wheels on the bottom. And they attacked the city. They launched rocket attacks. 22 have been confirmed dead at last report. This is the latest report I have. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared war on the Palestinian militants, and so on Hamas. So things heating up there in Israel, and you never know what it's going to take. I mean, with this axis of evil that has been coalescing with Brazil, Iran, China, Russia, the BRICS, and what happens is Iran, Iran's is the sponsor and funds most of the Middle East terrorism that's going on. And at what point do they then somehow get involved and this thing explodes into, World War III? God help us. I mean, let's pray that doesn't happen. And I wonder, on the other hand, if President Biden is watching the way the Israelis behave when an affront is made towards them, in this case, a direct attack. They don't take hostages. I mean, they are presently, as we speak, they are counterattacking in Gaza. They're not asking questions. They're not saying like President Biden did in Ukraine. Not that Ukraine is the American homeland, but he had no business venturing into Ukraine's business and saying, well, I mean, if you're going to have a posture that we're going to defend Western evolving democracies, which is the best that can be said of Ukraine. You don't, as Putin is amassing troops, you don't say, well, small incursion. Hey, what's that? Just a little dust up. It's just a flesh wound, just a flesh wound. No. You say you step 1 foot into this, and NATO and the West is going to annihilate you. You think you've seen one cluster bomb, Putin? You're going to see cluster bombs rain on you like you don't know what cluster bombs are. Instead, they slow walk the defense of Ukraine. If you're going to defend Ukraine or help defend it, you do it like Israel does. You don't mess around. And I think they should take a lesson. If you're listening, I don't think Biden listens. He's probably putting mercurochrome and triple antibiotic ointment on the wounds of the Secret Service agents who were wounded by his malicious dog, Commander. In case you're just joining us, I've figured out why Commander is the way he is. Talked about a study of several studies reported in the Daily Mail earlier this year. Dogs are like their owners. Commander appears to be vindictive, untrainable, neurotic. Does that remind you of anyone in the White House? I'm just saying. So the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, have announced a large-scale operation called Swords of Iron to defend its citizens. They've mobilized military reservists to fight back against what was a dawn raid in Israel. They've treated hundreds of victims, as I said, and some are in critical condition. I'm sure the death toll is going to go up. Hamas launched more than 5,000 rockets early this morning into Israeli territory. Wow. This is something else. Man, there is just evil in the world. I'm telling you, the human mind and human heart is just capable of unimaginable evil. We see it in these United States. We see the trafficking of young girls as they come up through Central America. They're trafficked. They're raped repeatedly. Thank you, Joe. I put this on you, buddy. Yeah, the proximate evil culprit, animal culprit is the coyote, the cartel. But you're inviting this. You prepared the seedbed, buddy. And what a huge, embarrassing, outrageous president you have been. I'm embarrassed to call you my president the way you've behaved. You look at what's happening to Americans and their personal finances. The vast majority of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. They can't fill up their car, people not being able to go on vacation. And vacation is an important thing in a healthy life. It's just, it's outrageous. And they continue to double down on the carnage that their policies have wrought on America. And it's, well, look, the voters will have their voice. We don't need a violent revolution. We need one at the ballot box. We need to, by the way, the GOP, if that's the party that I guess will be the likely heir apparent to try to right this ship, although I'm questioning whether they can do it anymore. So many of them have been lulled into constitutional sleepiness. They don't understand what small government means, what limited government means, why saying you can manage big government just better than the Democrats, why so many Republicans think that's a good thing. I don't understand. And it's going to take we the people. It's going to take another Tea Party moment. That's what it's going to take. And maybe 24 turns into that. Tea Party 2. Maybe that's what we do. 314-912-1019 if you want to join in on the show. Do we have a caller? We have a caller, Quentin?
Yes, we do. Mr. David Archibald.
Who's on? All right. Hey, welcome, caller. Thanks for joining the show. Go ahead.
Dr. Tobler?
Yeah. Oh, how you doing, Mr. Archibald? Good to talk with you.
Good morning. Sir, I hope I'm making a colossal fool out of myself in this call this morning. But the stock market, I fear, is in for a bad day this Monday. And we'll see if... So the yield on the 10-year Treasury has drained losses in the banking system, and the banking system is going to freeze up. And
yeah, so
I don't
so
know
you're
if
talking,
it's all going
David,
to occur
David,
Monday. I hope I'm wrong, but
yeah. So David, this is a variation on the theme that we saw, play out earlier this year when we had the closure of a few banks because they had invested in, low interest bonds, but they had to pay out money because people they didn't have the reserves there because of poor portfolio management, right? I mean, that relates to that, I think. And the bond market is tanking. The bond market is absolutely tanking. And I don't know where it's all going to end up. It's crazy. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this, and it's because the anomaly, the way the Democrats and the Republicans were complicit with this during the Trump administration by giving people money, dropping money in people's bank accounts like there was no tomorrow. And people are still spending it like there's no tomorrow. Or maybe they believe there's no tomorrow. And so it's just like the Titanic's going down. Let's listen to the quartet playing on the deck, of the ship. I don't know. But you can't give people free money profitably, just irresponsibly, and not expect this kind of a disruption in economic sanity. And that's what we're seeing right now. Hey, thank you for the call. Really appreciate it. Later on, in fact, in just a little bit, we're going to be talking to Nicole Solis. I talked with her yesterday. I was able to talk with her on my Mid-Missouri show. And Nicole has been a warrior for you folks who are parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. If you have any influence, therefore concern, over our children in public schools these days, you will want to listen to the upcoming interview. Why is that? Because what is being sold to our children and to the citizens paying the taxes to support our public schools as education is evolving into endorsement and encouragement for anomalous and frankly outrageous, unbelievable behaviors. I'm talking gender fluidity. I'm talking in this case, and we'll be talking with Nicole Solis. You'll hear this interview. I'm talking CRT. I'm talking about ESG. I'm talking about DEI. Things that kids didn't have to worry about because kids aren't born with the same cultural problems that we instill in them. They're born to be lovers and huggers, and that's what they do. But instead, now they're being taught to, have dysfunctional sexual attitudes and more. It's Ban the Book Week, culminating today by the American Librarians Association. Nicole Solis talks about just how dysfunctional that pushback is. More coming up on the Tobler Show in just a few.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. What happens next?
Speaker of the House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
Happens right here.
I believe that we were destined to lose the House if we didn't do what we did today because we didn't give anyone something to believe in.
This speaker was woefully lacking in leadership skills.
It was personal. It had nothing to do about spending.
St. Louis's place to talk.
But I do hope we come together and say these crazy Marxist radical leftists that are destroying the country, we are unified against.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones here to tell you all about Taco Tuesdays at two fantastic local St. Louis metropolitan businesses, Espino's Mexican Grill and Hippo's Cannabis Dispensary. Shop Hippo's any Tuesday. Spend $50 or more. You will receive 2 tacos from Espino's with a valid Hippo's lunch ticket. Espino's is a fresh alternative to the typical Mexican fare. Once you go in, you'll be back often. Hippo's has experienced personal bud tenders to walk you through your entire process. You might even see owners Brett Hull, Kelly Chase, or Barrett Jackman while you're there. Espino's Mexican Bar and Grill, Hippo's Dispensary, right next door to each other in beautiful Chesterfield Valley, 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road. If it's a bud tender or a bartender, they've got it all there. Espino'sMexicanBarGrill.com, Hippo'sCannabis.com.
All deals valid only while supplies last. Must be over 21. No cash value. Management retails all rights. Medical decisions should not be made based on advertising. Consult a physician on the benefits and risks of particular medical marijuana products. This message is not designed to increase interest in purchasing medical marijuana or any particular product. License number DIS 000129.
Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
That's what happens if you're a Republican and you're accused of lying to the FBI.
Mark McCloskey on Fire.
What does the FBI do? The FBI lies to Congress. The Attorney General lies to Congress. The Director of Homeland Security lies to Congress. And then what happens? Nothing happens.
Mark McCloskey on Fire.
Because as we all know now, the FBI, the DOJ have become nothing more than the enforcement arm of the leftist government.
Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. I love to grill and definitely prefer using charcoal over gas. And ever since I met Jonathan Heslop and he introduced me to his product, Rockwood Lump Charcoal, I can't use anything else. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory and has been the nationally highest consumer-ranked charcoal for several years. So you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. Doesn't get any better than that. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Be part of something big. Your City, Your Voice Town Hall, a rare event, is coming to the heart of our beloved St. Louis City. Imagine this, Attorney General Andrew Bailey and Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft in person, side by side, taking on your burning questions. It's October 12th. Come and ask the questions that keep you awake at night. It's your moment to be heard. Visit stlouisrepublicans.com for details.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s.
I should have been a cowboy.
Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks.
Let's go, girls.
Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com.
I'll go back.
Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa.
I love this station.
90s New Country streaming now. This hour, The Randy Tobler Show is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Libraries are supposed to select age-appropriate materials for children. So how is pornography getting into school libraries? Recently, the American Library Association reframed sexually explicit material as diversity. Here they are on video.
The thing that needs to happen most, and it needs to happen before these bills are introduced, is sustained messaging that reframes this issue, that takes it away from the idea that these are inappropriate for minors or sexually inappropriate for minors, and promote them as diverse materials and programming that are about inclusion, fairness, and the protection of everybody's right to see themselves and their families reflected in the books in the public library.
Look, if you want to buy your kids those books, go for it, because Banned Books Week is a hoax. These books are available everywhere. Parents just don't want these books as tax-funded materials in school because every child deserves the dignity to be in a safe, porn-free school.
That's my next guest, Nicole Solis, Senior Fellow at the Independent Women Forum's Education Freedom Center, an activist to defend the kind of bills that you see from being placed back in schools where you've worked so hard to get them out. Nicole, I'm telling you, that was a riveting Twitter, and we played the whole thing because on your Twitter, well, I can't get into X, but that's a post that you had at Nicoletta 0602. Thanks for doing that and alerting kids to the pushback from the librarians. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it's really important that the truth keeps getting pushed out about how this is really a campaign that misleads the public into believing that adults want to censor ideas, and that's not the case at all. Really, we have parents that want to protect children from pornography and sexually explicit material, and that's a totally different thing than a book ban. There are no book bans happening. It's really just parents trying to protect their children specifically from getting access to pornography in school libraries.
And, you know, I've been struggling ever since I saw your post on X
whether to post it on the show page for our show here on the Facebook page, because the images, and these are directly from the books that the librarians, at least some group of librarians, want to keep in the schools. I mean, these are so sexually explicit. I showed this to my wife, and she was aghast. And I mean, we're no spring chickens, and I mean, it was just uncomfortable to look at these. I don't think I'm going to post it on my Facebook page, but people can go to @Nicoletta0602 and take a look at it. But I mean, how in the world can they? And they're using an interesting ploy, aren't they, Nicole, to say that parents that don't want this in the schools, then they sort of passively aggressively want to pull To Kill a Mockingbird off the shelves too, right? I mean, the librarians. The interesting ploy that they're pulling.
Right. They'll just pivot from, parents are bigots against gay people to, parents are also racist. But, they're very hypocritical and not transparent, because you mentioned To Kill a Mockingbird. There are actually leftist students who want to pull To Kill a Mockingbird because they're offended at the racialized language, which is, accurate for the historical context of the book. You'll find stories where kids say, oh, well, these words offend me. They hurt my feelings. I feel unsafe. So look at how we are teaching children to respond to literature that is actually really important when we talk about our racial history in America. And now we have kids that are learning to kind of want to try to ban books themselves. They don't want to read books that are really good for them in school. And the American Library Association is now pushing books that really aren't good for kids in school. You said that, even adults are kind of shocked by this.
Oh, man.
Imagine a child who, adults are desensitized, but kids with no sexual experience, when they see these images, it's really traumatizing.
Well, I mean, I just can't imagine. I don't think that these books were in the shelves on my kids' library or when I was in school before them. Maybe they were. I don't know, but I don't think so, because a lot of these are new. They've come along with the whole gender fluidity movement. Isn't it interesting that they're pulling out as big a guns as they can do, though, these librarians, in this so-called Banned Books Week? LeVar Burton of Star Trek, The Next Generation fame. He's the honorary chair. So he's doing Facebook events for them and everything. Man, they're fighting back, huh?
Yeah, well, it's a really big media blitz, and this is meant to be a fundraising campaign for the American Library Association. And, of course, anyone with a little bit of fame or a public platform is ready to hop on that for their own personal, motivations, and they may not understand themselves what's really going on here. The American Library Association is asking Congress for almost $280 million in federal funding, and yet they're misleading the public about censorship that isn't happening.
This is amazing.
The other really important key here is that school libraries are different from public libraries. The First Amendment allows schools to remove books that are sexually inappropriate, and that comes from the case Board of Education versus PICO, which says that a school absolutely can remove what they characterize as pervasively vulgar materials or materials that are not suitable for education. So I think one of the reasons why the ALA reframed sexually explicit content to kids in school is that they have to get around this problem that they have, which is that schools absolutely can remove this material, and it's not a ban. And it's not a violation of the First Amendment to protect children from sexually explicit material.
Wow. Talking with Nicole Sola. She's a senior fellow at Education Freedom Center at Independent Women Forum. If you go to IWF.org and click on the Education Freedom Center there, for any of you that are really for school choice, trying to exercise your right as a tax-paying citizen, and, oh, yeah, by the way, in many cases, a parent, boy, this is where all of the resources are, and you can stay up with the activism that is being led by Nicole and others there at the IWF Education Freedom Center. Now, wouldn't this be a fun experiment to do, Nicole, for parents to just meander into their child's school's library and ask if they have any books by, Dennis Prager, Mark Levin? Do you think those books would be found in those shelves as frequently as some of these other books, and maybe if they were, maybe there's a difference in the navigation to said books in certain jurisdictions. I don't want to speak for all school districts and all librarians, but wouldn't that be an interesting experiment to do?
Yeah, I think that would be very interesting. My school district spent $20,000 to get a whole new batch of woke or progressive books into the school district. So I don't think they're going to be spending $20,000 to get PragerU materials, and I think they're certainly virtue signaling what their values are.
Yeah, I mean that maybe it's that kind of a concrete activism that parents need to do. It's like if you, especially, is there a way to capture? I know you've been active. I think is it Rhode Island. I think isn't that the school district that you're active in? Is that right?
Yes, I'm in South Kingstown School District. Yes,
because you've made a lot of great waves there in that district. But how did you find out that they had made this this big $20,000 tranche of books? How did you find that out? Was that, I mean, did they freely announce that and broadcast it because they were proud of it, or did you have to dig it up?
I had to dig it up. I was reading the meeting minutes of my school board meetings, and I saw that they had a discussion about purchasing these books for $20,000. So it caught my eye, and then I looked into it. And sure enough, it's all books that are very racialized. They're propaganda, really. When you read some of this literature, it's with characters that don't have any moral ambiguity. There's not a lot of character development. It's a very ham-fisted message of good versus evil, and it usually has a message that is supporting one political orthodoxy. So it's not the literature that we were reading as kids in English class. It's absolutely government propaganda.
I mean, I think the classics, well, heck, the Bible, for crying out loud. You read Song of Solomon, there's very sensuous stuff in there. There's a difference between staying in the lanes of normal human sensuality and exposing kids at the proper developmental level in the context of rich and nuanced classical literature to this
right. And
I mean, it's just raw. These are just nothing but raw pornographic images in these books. Wow.
Right. I think we have to be really clear to an audience that's listening on the radio that these are childlike, cartoon-styled depictions of sex acts.
Yeah.
And what's really concerning is that because it's this cartoon comic book style, it appeals to children.
Yeah.
And, the other side will say that this is just, a young adult art form, but it has an effect on children that we're really, not going to see.
We should make it clear. These are not pictures out of Pornhub being shown. These are drawings, but they're very, very graphic, and there is no doubt what's going on. There's no doubt the agenda that's being pushed. There's no doubt the narrative that's being endorsed. And holy cow, I hope people listening to our voices here throughout mid-Missouri will take a listen to this and say, holy cow, I got to get in there, do a little digging, ask where the funds for the library are being spent, look at the titles. It's not that hard to go on, and if something looks a little odd, go out. It's easy to research what's in a book without buying it, right, these days? It's going to take that kind of detective work.
In fact, there's a great website called booklooks.org. It's a website that shows you the pictures in the books and the excerpts that are sexually explicit in the book. It's made by a mom who was concerned about what's going on in her library. And then you can cross-reference the books that you see on that website with another website called GoFollet.com. It's G-O-F as in Frank, O-L-L-E-T-T.com. And you can search your school library catalog. So short of, going into the school district, you can do this all online and see what's going on in your own school district.
That is great practical advice, because we are in a battle. We're in a cultural battle that I think is an existential threat to the future of this country. I mean, we already have enough distractions. We already have enough things that are counter traditional nuclear family, which we know for ages has been the best way to protect our children from crime and failure in life, and it's just on and on and on. And this is just another. We got to keep fighting the good fight. And I'm glad you're doing that, Nicole Solis. Thank you so much for being with me. Again, your website, your Twitter feed is Nicoletta0602, right? At Nicoletta0602.
Yes, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks a lot, Nicole.
Yes.
Have a great weekend. Appreciate
Thank you. You too.
All right, there she is, Nicole Solis, and you can check her out on IWF.org at the Education Freedom Center. For any of you that are fighting for freedom from the indoctrination, the progressive, just absolute insistence and agenda to teach our children everything but what they really, really, really need for success in life, which is a little reading, writing, arithmetic, and yes, an awful lot of discipline and learning how to be critical thinkers. We don't have a whole lot of that around, it seems like, very much anymore. Hey, we haven't talked much about the payroll report from yesterday. It was interesting. It was compelling in that, 336 jobs, which Joe said he created, of course, in September. I don't think Joe's ever written a check in his life. Others are writing checks to him through 21 different LLCs. Oh, that's another story, isn't it? This really was way above expectations, which was we're somewhere in the 160, 170 range. Rick Santelli, I'm talking about Joe Biden. Rick Santelli talked about that. I think we've got a clip there, don't we?
Yep, I have it ready for you.
Let's play that because he was astounded on CNBC. Here it is.
Yes, jobs numbers for the month of September. Non-farm payroll, a whopping 336,000, much stronger than what was expected in the 165 to 170,000 camp. And if you look at the unemployment rate, it remained at 3.8%. It remained at 3.8%. And if we look at average hourly earnings, they also remained it up 0.2%. Now, real quickly, up 3.8% happens to be the highest since Jan of 22. So we remain at that level, even though it's 2 months running. And on the wages, month over month, average hourly earnings up 0.2. That is the smallest since February of 22, and it remains the smallest since February 22 with back-to-back months. Let's take a year-over-year perspective. Average hourly earnings are 4.2%. 4.2%. That is the lowest level going all the way back to June of 21. 4.2%.
Okay, well there you go. I mean, it's a tremendous report on the face of it. However, if you unpack and compare to the inflation rate year over year, on top of the enormously inflated inflation rate the previous year over year, you'll understand that while the wages have gone up, they are not keeping up with inflation. In real buying power, you, me, we've all lost buying power. And how in the world this administration can try to claim that there's some kind of great victory here, I don't understand. And like our caller, David Archibald, said, I sense that when this happens, this is not going to be when what I think may be not just a recession, but a deep recession. I think it'll come upon us like a thief in the night. It will be quick. It won't be predictable. I mean, I'm predicting that there's going to be some carnage ahead economically. This insistence on this government to keep just hammering on fossil fuels. The recently announced oil and gas leases in the Gulf were the fewest that they've offered in decades, at a time when the Middle East is cleaning our clock, when they're keeping their oil supplies low, oil production low, because they know how economics works, supply and demand. And I think the combination of increasing demand by labor to keep up with wages, to try to keep up with inflation, is of course going to drive more inflation. And we're in this vicious cycle. When will we get into a virtuous cycle? Maybe Virginia Kruta will have some thoughts on that when she joins me in a minute. And later on, I'll be asking Joe Brocato, who's a relationship, as it relates to business and personal relationship, but an expert in that realm, if relationships can be managed better up in the Capitol. And at 8 o'clock, we're talking with our very own Tim Jones. Can't wait to check in with Tim and see his prognostication, what he thinks about our economic future with the fragility that we're having right now. You're listening to the Randy Tobler Show on News Talk STL. That's 1019 94.1. You can catch it on the app, online, Alexa.
I don't do Alexa. You know why? I think Merrick Garland might be listening. I'm just saying. I'm not sure. Just saying. Quentin Carngay over there making sure that all the buttons are pushed and the sliders are slid and we stay on the air. You can catch us on Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, what else? Facebook, of course. Be back in a minute. Stay there.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. What happens next?
Donald Trump engaged in years of illegal conduct to inflate his net worth.
Happens right here.
It's a witch hunt. It's a disgrace.
1019 and 94.1.
And because I'm the only candidate they do not want to run against.
News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Missouri Wild Alchemy is a local and family-owned business dedicated to providing consumers with high-quality cannabis and education. They strive to make customers feel comfortable and to help curtail the stigma of cannabis use by having a professional and well-educated staff. They're proud to carry products from several Missouri cultivators and manufacturers. Missouri Wild Alchemy, now serving recreational customers 21 and above, as well as patients. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram, or visit MissouriWild.com. That's MissouriWild.com.
Hi, Sean Long for STL FenceWorks. STL FenceWorks is proud and excited to install American-made aluminum and vinyl fence products, as well as American-made decking. For instance, STL FenceWorks has teamed up with Jareth Manufacturing. Jareth invented the aluminum fence industry over 50 years ago. The Jareth product is wholly sourced and manufactured in the U.S., and STL FenceWorks is the third largest Jareth customer in the world. STL FenceWorks is vinyl fencing also, and not just white. We partner with National Vinyl Products to provide you with tan, clay, gray, and variegated wood grain vinyl fence products too, all made in the U.S. Not to be forgotten, STL FenceWorks is maintenance-free decking. STL FenceWorks is the #1 distributor of Wolf Cellular PVC in the Midwest, proudly manufactured in the U.S. and voted #1 maintenance-free decking product in the United States. Let STL FenceWorks make your outdoor space magical. Visit STLFenceWorks.com today and learn how we can make your backyard dreams into a reality. At STL FenceWorks, your satisfaction is our passion.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Then here's a great idea. Donate your car and help veterans and their families. Yes, one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program and we'll come and remove your car for free. Fast, free towing, and 24-hour response. You can donate most cars, trucks, or SUVs in most conditions. The proceeds raised goes to help active military, veterans, and their families, and you get a tax deduction. All you need to do is make this free call. Get rid of that old car and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now and book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Donation Program now. Donate your car and help veterans and their families. Operators are standing by. Here's the number.
800-925-1596. 800-925-1596. 800-925-1596. That's 800-925-1596.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Come out, Virginia, don't let it wait. You Catholic girls start much too late. Oh, but sooner or later it comes down.
This is Larry Connors reminding you to listen to my program Monday through Friday at 6 p.m., the Larry Connors USA Daily Report. But now, back to the outstanding Dr. Randy Tobler.
I'm still paying Larry for that nice comment. I don't know. I just, every week those wires from my bank account go into Larry. It's so nice of him to say that.
I better start getting a cut of that.
That's very, very kind of him. Very, very kind of him. It's such a pleasure to have Larry and all the great people we have on this station work with them. I mean, it's really a great, great family of talent, and
Now we have another of our great family of talent, and that's Virginia Kruta. She's talented in so many platforms on Twitter. I don't know. She's got more followers than Gavin Newsom. I mean, that's saying a lot. That's a lot of followers. And on Daily Wire. How you doing, Virginia? I missed you last week. I'm glad you're with me this week, though. How'd the soccer game go? Was it soccer game?
Oh no,
How'd it
it's
go?
swim meet.
Oh, swim meet. Man, the water's
Yeah.
cold this time of year. Holy cow!
Well, not
How'd that go?
inside.
Oh, I was gonna say. Whew.
No, it's indoor anyway. And last week it was like 90 degrees. I mean, I
Yeah,
realized
well,
you
you're
don't
right.
really think about that it was 90 degrees last week because it was 42 this morning. But you know, it was.
I was
It
swimming
was almost
outside.
90
Yeah,
degrees.
during the 90-degree weather, I was swimming outside. I love swimming. It's great. Hey, so now was this
Me
a
too.
daughter or son that was competing?
This is my daughter. She's 10. She's on the swim team at the Y, so it's all winter. This season just started. That was her first meet last week. She's got another one tomorrow, and that season finishes up in April, and then she's got a month off, and her summer season starts.
Wow, she's serious about this. Now, do they allow? I mean, are they doing the woke, transgender, guys who want to be girls swimming with the girls? Or is that
We
not
haven't
happening?
seen any of that. We really haven't seen any of that. Usually, like I think we talked about this before. You don't see that as much at this level because kids who are swimming at 10, 11, 12, they're not as serious about it as like. They're not fighting for scholarships. They're not fighting for prize money. They're fighting for, ribbons at the end of the meet. And it's not as competitive, and it's not as the stakes aren't as high. So when you are a collegiate swimmer and you're ranked 400th in the men's, and you realize that if you were female, you could be first. There's a whole the calculus is different than when you're 12.
Yeah.
If that makes
sense.
sense.
Well, that's true. No, I get it. It's more for good, fun competition and
yeah.
good sports
So you
healthiness.
don't see that a lot now, but if trust me, if there was even a hint of it, I would be in the locker room with my daughter every time she went in.
Yeah, that would not be a pretty sign. I wouldn't want to be that guy become female or try to become female person in your daughter's locker room. That would not end up well for that individual. All right, I saw that you wrote on the Daily Wire about Sonny Hostin, and I had commented last week after Sonny Hostin on The View just lit into Jim Jordan, calling him a terrorist, a political terrorist. And I thought, man, there were others that were really all over him. And, Hillary Clinton, I mean, she went on after him on his Benghazi hearings when she was Secretary of State. And I thought, man, they must feel he's a real genuine threat to their agenda should he become speaker, because they were going after him like Commander was going after Secret Service agents. But Sonny had to walk it back. That I didn't know about that. Tell us about it.
Well, you know how it is. When you say something in the heat of the moment on live TV, if your producers catch it and they know you're wrong, they make you read a little legal note that says, oh, by the way, I didn't quite get this exactly right. And so what she said was that Jim Jordan has been linked to the sex abuse scandal at Ohio State University. Now, he was working there. And at the time, later on, there were people who came out and said, hey, there was this sex abuse scandal going on among the wrestling team. A few people accused Jim Jordan of knowing that. Jim Jordan, from the very beginning, has denied knowing anything about it. And what Sonny Hostin said was, without giving any of the clarification, just said he had been linked to this sex abuse scandal. So she doesn't really say, oh, he was a part of it. Oh, he knew about it. Oh, he was a perpetrator of it. She didn't really clarify what she meant, just kind of left it out there. And at the end of the segment, she had to read a note saying that, no, Jim Jordan's team has said from the very beginning that he had nothing to do with this and didn't know it was happening. So, they've had to do that a few times where they have to, or they'll say something about Brett Kavanaugh and the women that accused him, and then they have to read a note saying that he denied it, and oh, by the way, the FBI didn't find anything in 6 background checks. stuff like that. So yeah, they have to read the legal notes when they say things that are way out there.
Talking with Virginia Kruta. Virginia, I was talking with let's just say a pretty influential person in Republican politics in the state of Missouri, and is active in monitoring elections and so forth on the show that I do there on afternoons in Columbia. And I challenge this individual because I think it's good that you always need to look at your own club and make sure that you're behaving and your own behavior. It's always healthy to do a little pinch now and then, make sure that you're on the right track. And I was stunned by this revelation that when Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie were going to appear with together on Brett Baer's special report, at least according to Chris Christie and Vivek, the RNC threatened them with exclusion from the upcoming debate if they appeared together outside of the RNC prescribed debate format. I thought this troubled me. Now, this GOP insider, and I love her. She's a great person. I love her. Politically, we get along great. I said, but doesn't that smell? She said, well, there's rules, and if they don't want to follow the rules, blah, blah, blah. What is your thought about that whole incident? They ended up appearing separately, by the way, on Brett Baer.
Right. No, I knew about this. I actually wrote about it. What I think is going on. So the RNC had all the candidates sign a pledge that they would not participate in any debates other than the RNC debates. So here's the thing: if they didn't want to be bound by the rules, they shouldn't have signed the paper. That's number one. They should have said, no, the people deserve to hear as much information as they can in whatever format they can, and this is not fair. This is not a reasonable expectation. So, but the RNC said what they said. They said, we're going to have these sanctioned debates, and you're not going to appear in any non-sanctioned debates. And the assumption is that if Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie appeared together on a show where they were going to be challenged, like a show with Brett Baer would necessarily be, that they would end up debating each other, which is a fairly reasonable assumption that would happen, that's how this would play out. And so the RNC said, no, that amounts to a debate. You can't do it. You signed this pledge that said you wouldn't. Okay, so they signed the pledge. Then they signed on to this interview. The RNC pointed out what the interview was likely to be, and now they're mad that they signed the pledge. Or they're mad at the RNC, but in reality, they're mad that they signed the pledge. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I would like to hear, as a voter, I would like to hear as much as possible from every candidate. So what I would prefer is that we have as many debates as possible in as many different formats as possible, because I think that the way, I don't know if you watched the last debate, I think it couldn't be much worse. So
no, I struggled through it. It was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah, let's have some more options here. So I think that the RNC probably did it for a reason, but at the same time, I would rather hear as much as I can from the candidates as often as I can. So that's
okay.
And I think it wouldn't be a bad idea for Ramaswamy and Chris Christie to say, no, we're going to do this anyway. And if you don't want us on the stage, that's fine. We'll just keep doing it this way. Because it's not like nobody's going to put them on TV.
Right. No, I agree. I didn't know about that pledge, and until I hadn't seen that you had written about that.
The problem is if they buck the RNC, then they can't get the Republican committee. Then it's going to be much more difficult. But the reality is, Chris Christie and Vivek Ramaswamy, neither one of them are going to be president. So they lose nothing if they buck the RNC.
Wait a minute. This is new news. Breaking news. Virginia Kruta says today on October 7th that neither Vivek or Christie will be president. I don't know. Stranger things have happened. You never know.
Stranger things have happened, but I think it is far more likely that RFK nabs Tulsi Gabbard as his running mate and wins all the independents That is more likely than Chris Christie or Vivek Ramaswamy becoming president. Now, I could see them both getting cabinet positions depending on who the president is.
Okay.
But I don't.
Hey,
think
Virginia, we're going to have to
to.
talk about this next week. This is an interesting play, an interesting gambit. So I'm going to put this down for next week. Quentin, don't let me forget it. RFK, Tulsi Gabbard. The question on the table when we talk with you next week, Virginia, will be, who does that take more votes from? Trump or some other nominee? Probably Trump. Or Biden, or some other nominee, or Newsom. Okay, that's the question on the table. Thanks for being with me, Virginia. You've really set the table for a great convo next week. I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks. There she is, Virginia Kruta. Wow, I don't know what to think of that. That's good. Let's see what Tim Jones thinks of that when we talk with him in just a few on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Good morning.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Beavis Schock, the attorney who originally made red light cameras illegal in the state of Missouri. How is the mayor bringing back red light cameras?
If everybody doesn't want red light camera tickets, why would aldermen vote for it? Well, they must have no fear of the voters. That tells you something's wrong with the voting habits of the public.
And they're Democrats.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. Get charged up on the truth. Power Punch with Larry Behrens.
Gas prices are crashing higher once again, and the Biden administration is employing a new tactic to try to make us believe they're not responsible. We'll help you see through it. And when you go to rent that car, are you choosing all those fancy EVs? No, you're not, and you're not alone. We'll talk about it this week.
Power Punch with Larry Behrens, Saturday afternoons at 4 on News Talk STL.
Get more Power Punch at powerthefuture.com.
Tony Colombo here with a great offer from Zero Res. Just mentioned the Colombo special when you book a cleaning in October, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $129 plus $50 off an air duct cleaning. We've trusted Zero Res with our home for years, and 5,000 Google reviews with an average of 4.9 out of 5 says it all. Zero Res is the best when it comes to cleaning any surface in your home. Just remember to mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K-12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. We have an exciting new training opportunity available for public school and Christian school teachers. The Herzog Foundation Institute has partnered with the Bill of Rights Institute to offer 4 training events in 4 Missouri cities this year. These day-long professional development opportunities are best suited for middle and high school civics, government, U.S. history, and social studies teachers. Middle and high school teachers have a unique opportunity to strengthen civic knowledge and values for the next generation. We want to help teachers seize this opportunity.
Visit herzogfoundation.com/events to learn more and register for a Bill of Rights Institute training event near you. herzogfoundation.com/events. herzogfoundation.com/events.
Colombo and Katie.
A CNN poll that was just released this week shows that 49% of Americans flag Joe Biden's age as their biggest concern.
I believe that these instances are more sounding the alarm on the Democrat side to step up to the plate and run against Biden. Someone needs to run against him from our party so that we understand you exist and we understand the bench.
Tony Colombo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Palestinian terrorists in the Gaza Strip are carrying out an unprecedented infiltration into southern Israel. They've sent fighters across the border, firing thousands of rockets into the country as well. Here's the BBC's Rushdie Abalouf.
We're getting some sort of reports about Hamas militants infiltrated from the border. We have a 42-kilometer long border from far north to far south between Israel and Gaza. We have at least 2 locations where witnesses and security sources confirmed to have seen Hamas militants cross the border and engage with face-to-face fighting with the Israeli army. They have a lot of posts near the border.
The ruling Hamas terrorist group has announced the beginning of a new operation against Israel. In response, the Israeli military has launched a counteroffensive. A meeting between President Biden and the Chinese President Xi could be in the works. Here's White House correspondent Greg Clugston.
The president could potentially meet with Xi Jinping on the sidelines of next month's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco.
There has been no such meeting set up, but it is a possibility.
U.S. relations with Beijing have been strained in recent years, and the two leaders have not spoken since their meeting last November at the G20 summit in Indonesia.
That's White House correspondent Greg Clugston. Presidential candidate Senator Tim Scott among the Republicans opposed to this week's vote to remove House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. He says it causes a lot of problems in the House and, by extension, to the Senate as well.
There's no doubt that we're seeing chaos in the House, and the real question is, what's the benefit to the American people? And the bottom line is that there is no benefit to the American people.
And the House is not scheduled to vote on who could replace Kevin McCarthy until next week at the soonest. Senator Scott was interviewed by the Salem Radio Network. More from townhall.com.
You take the time to really get to know your body, you find that the root causes of its aches and pains are usually simple. The older we get, the more exercise we undertake, and the more injuries we sustain, the more inflammation our bodies suffer from. It's so simple. And my answer to that pain is Relief Factor, which I discovered years ago and take every single day to great effect. It helps the body to fight off inflammation, and I've never found anything that worked better in my life. I can't recommend it enough. 70% of the more than 500,000 people who have tried Relief Factor end up ordering more. That's because it works for them the way it works for me. Isn't it time for you to get out of pain? Your first step to becoming pain-free should be to order the 3-week quick start for the discounted price of only $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF to find out more about this offer. Feel the difference.
Hey guys, Ken Kruger. I've gotten to know these guys really well over the last few years. Yes, St. Louis Bath and Renovation. They're the most trusted name in bathroom remodelers in the St. Louis area. In fact, if you need bathroom repairs, complete bathroom remodeling, or handyman services, call St. Louis Bath and Renovation at 314-477-6476 or email Rob at stlbr.com. That's St. Louis Bath and Renovation.
Get ready for winter by making sure your family is warm and safe when the bone-chilling weather gets here. Mike Ferguson here for Anton's Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Energy Experts. Call them today to get your furnace tune-up. It's only $89, and it could save you hundreds or even thousands by preventing a breakdown. 314-338-3941 or antonshvac.com. Anton's installed our HVAC system, and we love it. Put their expertise and excellent customer service to work for you, just like they did for my house. antonshvac.com.
Investment advisory and financial planning services offered through Simplicity Well, LLC, SEC registered investment advisor. Insurance, consulting, and education services offered through Serenity Wealth Management.
Are you or someone you know providing or managing care for a loved one today? Did you know there could be more cost-efficient solutions for funding long-term care, even those currently living in a skilled care facility today? Financial strategist and long-term care specialist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management can show you tax-efficient strategies available to help your family manage care concerns. Whether planning for the future or managing care for a loved one today, solutions exist to provide the financial peace of mind you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book, A CPA's Guide to Tax-Free Strategies for Long-Term Care. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Request your free copy of Chris's book by visiting SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
I got my first real 6-string, bought it at the 5 and dime, played it till my fingers bled, was the summer of 69. Me and some guys
Randy
from
Tobler,
school,
Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer on News Talk STL.
and Jody got married.
Well, welcome to the third hour of the program, and I have been itching to talk to my friend and, of course, the the host of the Jones and Arps show. Where do you hear Tim Jones and Chris Arps? Right here on News Talk STL, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6. How you doing, Tim? Good to be with you, man. Glad that you're here because as the Speaker of the Missouri House in those yesteryear days, halcyon, when all things were good in Missouri in the Capitol, you were the leader, and I can't wait to talk to you about the Speaker debacle that happened last week. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, Randy. Yeah, it was amazing. I had not expected that. I did not plan to be in the chamber of the U.S. House of Representatives, but I had planned a trip to D.C. last week, Doc, for one of the groups that I do some work for, the American Legislative Exchange Council. Randy, you've probably heard of ALEC. You maybe have even had some of their folks on as guests.
Sure.
They try to unite the private sector with the legislators, with the best think tanks in America to help craft the best legislation to move the states forward. And boy, Randy, a group like that's needed more than ever before, right? Because while so many of the states are showing how successful they can be if they deploy the ALEC mission of limited government, free markets, and federalism, that is the contra to what we're seeing in D.C. So, Randy, I was planning a trip up there because they were having their 50th anniversary gala. ALEC goes back 50 years. They were kind of born out of the Reagan Revolution. Folks like Speaker Newt Gingrich, who was at our gala celebration, was part of the birth of ALEC back in the early days. And so, Randy, I was planning on being there. I landed on Tuesday, and I reached out to one of my very good friends who I served in the Missouri House with, now Congressman Eric Burleson from Southwest Missouri. He is a great new freedom fighter to the Capitol. He's part of the House Freedom Caucus. And I said, Eric, are you in town today? What's going on? What's happening? He said, not only am I in town, but I'm about to head to the Capitol, and you need to get over here as quickly as possible so I can put you up in the gallery and we can watch history being made together. I said, oh, my goodness. I dropped everything, ran to the hotel, checked in real fast, ran over to the Capitol. And, Randy, from that point forward, it was the most surreal experience. And it kept hitting me really hard that this had never happened before. You know, we've had a lot of historic events, right? Some good, some bad over the last 5-6 years. This one had no prior, there was no prior history. It had never happened. There's only been like one or two motions to ever vacate a speaker. They were never successful. And so we honestly did not know what was happening. But Randy, I had a bird's eye view to the whole thing. I sat in the gallery for 3 hours, listened to the debate. It was a good debate. Only a couple times did it devolve into a little bit of personal character assassination. But for the most part, I thought that each side made good points. The Democrats sat there and did nothing and voted with 8 Republicans to oust the House Speaker. They were more than happy, Randy, to throw the Republican conference into complete chaos.
So, Tim, there's so much to unpack here, and I have to tell you a little inside story here. It was funny. I think folks know that you, for quite a while, were doing a show in southwestern Missouri in Springfield, and at a sister station from where I do a mid-Missouri show. And I was talking with your replacement host there just last week, not 3 days ago, but previously, and I was really upset about the fact that the majority of the conference was not getting the message that we need to keep our promises, like passing regular order things and regular appropriation bills and term limit and the budget and things that were promised and they hadn't. And I mentioned Eric Burleson. And I said, look, whether it's Luetkemeyer or Burleson or anyone, I said, well, how come why isn't there more support despite Matt Gaetz's hyperbolic and self-serving nature? He had allies that I think have some good points there. It's like, how long are we going to keep kicking this can down the road? And oh my gosh, producer Cass down there, who is worked on the Burleson campaign, she got into the mech. She said, wait a minute, he's a conservative. And so I found myself on my heels back against the ropes.
Yes.
I've never had such mixed emotions about something, Tim, because forget about Gaetz. I mean, Tim Burchett, Andy Biggs, these are good people who finally have said, when are Republicans going to stop going along to get along and put our feet in the sand? Where do you land on the whole debate, aside from McCarthy? I mean, could he have done things better? Or, in fact, did the Gaetz 8 have it all wrong here?
Yeah, Randy, I'm going to tell you exactly why McCarthy lost his post. But first of all, yeah, a lot to unpack here. I'm like you. I have very mixed emotions about all this. But let me just say this. Eric Burleson is a conservative's conservative. He was backed by all of the conservative groups in the nation, the Club for Growth, the Club for Growth, and others like that, Young Americans for Liberty. Eric has a long voting record that people could look at from his time in the House, and then he served in our state Senate for 4 years as well. He is an incredibly devoted family man, father of 2 daughters, just like me. One of the other reasons we get along so well, strength in numbers, and a devoted defender of the message of life and liberty and constitutional freedom. I mean, he is a Jim Jordan. He is a Jim Jordan, Tom Massey kind of conservative. So, however, Eric did vote with, let's remember, Randy, 96% of the Republican conference stayed with Kevin McCarthy, voted with Kevin McCarthy. And probably a lot of them did not want to. They probably were like, yeah, I wish we had a better speaker, but this is the speaker we chose. So, Randy, it was 4% of the Republican conference. And like I said, they both made good points. But my intuition with McCarthy for years has been he was never truly destined to be speaker. I always felt that. Apparently, I was 1,000% correct. I felt that he became the default speaker because no one challenged him ultimately for real. And now that he has removed himself out of the way, Randy, I feel like we're going to get the speaker now that we should have gotten, that the Republican conference should have gotten in the first place. What a horrible 9-month birthing process, Randy, to borrow an analogy from your world, to have to go through, though, to get to that point. I think, Randy, to sum it all up, Kevin McCarthy lost too many Republicans, the 8 that voted against him, and, Randy, probably a lot of others that were really just biting their tongue and saying we don't need to throw ourselves into chaos. Because, Randy, my understanding is Kevin McCarthy, for better or for worse, whether he meant it maliciously or not, was not someone who always kept his word. And, Randy, you know that in a legislative body, you've been around legislative bodies at all levels and spoken to people for decades. The only thing ultimately you have in those legislative bodies is your word. And it got to a point where many felt that Kevin McCarthy could not be trusted. Randy, you know, it's a difference of degree. Were we moving fast enough on transparency? Were we moving fast enough on budget bills? You know, they did more progress this year than they have in the previous 15, but I think it became a trust factor. It's personal. It's very personal between Gates and McCarthy. And I think it was a breakdown of trust a long time ago that led to this ultimate conclusion.
Well, I think you and I come to the same conclusion, and you're much more well-informed than me in terms of what happens in the halls and in the meeting rooms and the smoke-filled, I guess no more smoke-filled rooms. But, you know, and I understand there's a certain esprit de corps and a collegiality that I think the Republicans, probably those like Eric Burleson, that didn't want to appear as being mean-spirited and joining with what was being painted as, and probably truly is, a very personal vendetta between Gates and McCarthy. All that said, and as ugly as it was, I agree with you. I think we're going to end up, assuming Jordan can win over enough of the 8 to become the speaker, I think he's going to be an effective, maybe it's the coach thing, I don't know what it is, but I think he can be a very effective. But you know, Tim, I was talking with Katie and Tony the other day about this. The seeds of this problem were set when McCarthy sold his soul to the devil and agreed to that ridiculous motion to vacate rule by one, way back then. And I think he was too ambitious and he was willing to give too much just to have that gavel. And I think that tells you a lot about ambition and power and the acquisition of it. We criticize that often, don't we, in terms of the Democrats, how they'll do anything to maintain and acquire power. And I think it would be well informed on individual leaders in a populist time like we have to be careful about that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Randy, I feel that McCarthy was just willing to make too many deals to get that seat. He's been wanting to be speaker for most of the time that he's been in Congress. And let's remember, he tried many years ago after John Boehner left Congress. And remember that McCarthy tried very, very hard to become speaker at that time. And we ended up with Paul Ryan as speaker. I don't know if folks remember that, but McCarthy was in the mix for that. He didn't have the support back then. And like I said, I'm definitely not a big fan of him being speaker, but as far as a congressman, he's done a good job. He's raised a ton of money. He has $100 million in his super PAC. I hope that goes towards winning races next year. I think he's a team player enough, but I think, Randy, to your point, he just wanted it too badly, and he was willing to do anything to give it up. And they never should have installed that one-person motion to vacate. I'm sorry. On any given day, having had this experience, you're lucky if 51% of your caucus is with you, right? Every single thing a speaker does is going to make half the caucus happy and piss off the other half,
And like most things in life, Tim, you look at your traits, right? Okay, so we talk for a living, or as what we do here on the radio, and that's a gift that for many is fine. We have an audience and people enjoy listening. We enjoy talking, but while you may be good at it, that's the very thing that gets you in trouble, right? And so, that's the problem. You have to be able to curtail that and recognize that there is a double-edged sword to whatever talent you may have. And but now, on the other hand, hey, we shouldn't be remiss in pointing out, and I don't know about you, but I don't recall the rallying cry of why did he have us on vacation? Or Gates, and friends came out with that, as part of the final nails in the coffin. Well, why did he put us on vacation? I didn't hear during that vacation. I didn't hear the Gates 8 whining that they were on vacation. Did you? I think there was a little disingenuity there.
And Randy, Matt Gaetz definitely made some great points. They had a 1 hour time debate, Randy. It was fascinating to watch it. We did things like this in the Missouri House. We had time debates from time to time, mainly on the budget bills, but we did it for other things too. So each side got a half an hour time debate. So they would start and stop the clock, just like during a football game, right? And McCarthy's allies would speak, and then Gaetz and his allies would speak. And I think Gaetz only had 2 or 3 people that spoke with him. He mainly did most of the talking. He made some good points, but it also became very clear, Randy, that this was about Matt Gaetz, and this was about the future of Matt Gaetz. Folks need to know this. He is running for governor in the state of Florida. So this was – I'm not saying he didn't have good points about McCarthy, but he definitely poured the gasoline on it and lit the match and said, oh, this is a great way to highlight my profile statewide in Florida, a gigantic state of 26 million people. Do a little fundraising along the way, like they all do, and to get some national attention. But it was also very obvious. If you sat there and watched the entire hour, you saw that even though he made some points, like I said, it was a difference of degree. It was kind of like, I used this analogy the other day, Randy. So back in January, Matt Gaetz and a couple of his allies, they basically extracted, 10 pounds of flesh out of McCarthy. And at this point, 9 months later, their argument was they only got 8 pounds to this point, not the full 10 yet. I mean, McCarthy was moving the House back to regular order. He really was. This is the first time, I believe I said earlier, in well over a decade that they have approved this many appropriations bills. This week, they were going to work on and approve the 6th and 7th out of 12 appropriations bills. That hasn't been done in forever. They passed a plethora of great legislation, the Parents' Bill of Rights, a real immigration bill. They're showing the American people up to this point that they can govern no matter who's running the Senate, no matter who's running the White House. The biggest thing that upsets me about this, Randy, and I'll be okay, and I think America will be as well, if they can quickly put this behind them and continue to move forward, because they've now lost 2 weeks of work they could have been doing. They lost all of last week. They're going to lose probably all of this week trying to get a speaker installed. But if they can get either Jim Jordan or Steve Scalise, who I understand are both extremely popular and do not have the issues that McCarthy had with the caucus. This is just going to be a personal preference kind of pick. If they can get back to that and back to that regular order and back to passing those appropriations bills, Randy, you know how folks are. A year from now, this will be a distant memory, and hopefully we'll be riding the waves of a successful Speaker Jordan or Speaker Scalise into the general election.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect analysis. And boy, that insider being there in the chamber, thank you for sharing that, because that was exciting. That was American politics, for better or worse. That was rock'em sock'em American politics at its best. I mean, we've seen it from the foundations of this country, and like it or not, that's the way America rolls. And it was great to see, and hopefully we'll end up in a better place. Tim, I know you and Chris will be talking about that as long as this controversy rolls out, and there'll be a vote next week. We'll have to see where it all happens. I hope they can get in the room and all agree that, hey, the circular firing squad needs to stop, and we need to present a unified, like the Democrats do, a unified consensus going forward. That is job number 1, 2, and 3, right?
It really is, because Randy, when the debate and the discussion turned to any substantive issues, which it did several times, both Matt Gaetz and his allies and Kevin McCarthy's allies, several times there was mention of the things they had gotten accomplished to this point. And Randy, it's quite an accomplishment list. Whether you like McCarthy or not, the folks he has around him are really good, and you've got great chairmen and you've got great people moving this forward. The House Freedom Caucus was working hand in hand. They voted in a super majority fashion to hold McCarthy, because as much as many of them probably don't like him and wish they had a different speaker, they knew, Randy, that this point of having a chaos conference is something that the media and the Democrats and the left, they thoroughly enjoyed this. That's why every single Democrat, Randy, who was in that House chamber voted to oust McCarthy. Let's not forget how this happened. A unanimous Democratic Party and 8 Republicans ousted the House Speaker. That's who ousted the House Speaker, not a majority of the Republican conference, nowhere even close, 4% of that conference. So again, if the means justify the ends of a speaker that can unify the conference and keep moving it forward with all the accomplishments they've had, and maybe add several more, when the discussion turned to substantive issues, the Republicans were united, Randy. They pointed out time and time again things I'm sure the media completely ignored in their reporting that day, of what the Biden administration has done to this country over the last 3 years. And, if it's Donald Trump and Joe Biden looking into the camera a few months from now asking, are you better off now or not than you were 4 years ago, I think the answer is pretty clear, Randy. Donald Trump's America, if you put aside Donald Trump's personality, was a pretty awesome place to live in, where everybody, regardless of who they were, where they came from, the color of their skin, their background, their race, color, creed, code, was succeeding and prospering at less than 2% inflation to boot.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. We'll see where it goes, and be listening to you when you resume your wonderful afternoon broadcast. And it's always great to get that, after the dust has settled for the day, to get you and Chris's analysis. Tim Jones, thanks for being with me, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Doc. Thanks for having me. Continue to have a great show.
All right, we will. When we come back, we'll talk to Joe Brocato about relationships, and maybe in the context of what happened in the Republican conference over the last couple of weeks, and how he would have advised, should he been asked, that they get along with the UAW strike, and perhaps Donald Trump and how he gets along or doesn't with people in his sphere. We'll be mixing it up with Joe Brocato, an expert in relationship management, right after this.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
I don't know where I would get the truth if it weren't for you.
Live and local.
Welcome to the People's Republic of America stand. Here comes another roller coaster, another circus.
This is News Talk STL.
How's your health care? Insured but afraid to use it because of high copays and deductibles? You wait weeks for a few minutes with your doctor? It's Dr. Randy Tobler, and I struggle with the same issues as both patient and doc. You want to know that you're the focus, not the billing codes or faceless denial experts at insurance skyscrapers, which is why I've decided there's a better way. At Body of Health Direct Primary Care, you'll receive timely and time-rich appointments in person or virtually, whichever fits your needs and schedule, along with hundreds of free medications, transparent and truly affordable labs, and most importantly, a trusting relationship. We'll dig deep for solutions to problems and fill you with holistic coaching to minimize the need for high-powered medicine or specialty care. Now, if you need that, I'll work with specialists to streamline that journey too. And if it's prenatal care, hormonal, or sexual health that's bugging you, I'm board certified in women's health. Want a Body of Health? Get to know us at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Dealing with storm damage? Don't panic. Eureka Contracting and Roofing is here to help. With the recent storms, they understand it can be overwhelming. Remember, you don't have to rush into signing with the first door-to-door salesman. Don't let pushy sales tactics force you into a contract you're not comfortable with. Before making decisions, take a moment. Give the folks at Eureka Contracting and Roofing a call like I did for a no-pressure inspection. They'll assess the damage, determine if it's insurable. If it is, they'll guide you through the insurance process, and your only out-of-pocket expense will be your deductible. Eureka Contracting and Roofing, 636-938-ROOF, eurekacontracting.com.
Are you tired of hard chlorinated water drying your skin out, tasting bad, and ruining your fixtures? Jones Air and Water Treatment has a solution to this pollution. Our Hydratech H2O leaves you with great tasting, soft water at all fixtures in your home with one unit. Call Jones Air and Water at 636-899-1040 or visit us on the web at joneswater.com. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air and Water, 636-899-1040 or joneswater.com on the web. Call us now.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
Do you live in West St. Louis County? Then you can get West News Magazine delivered free to your home just by asking for it. West News Magazine is the only print source for the political, school, business, and sports news happening in your hometown. Simply visit westnewsmagazine.com/subscribe or pick up a free copy at all area Deerbergs and Schnuck stores. West News Magazine. Anybody who wants it gets it. Anybody who gets it wants it. Subscribe for free today. Simply visit westnewsmagazine.com/subscribe.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Monday, we'll have the latest on speaker stakes with former U.S. Senator Jim Talent at 425. Red State Update, Susie Moore, 525.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Oh, what you gonna do? You wanna get down? Tell me. Oh, what you gonna do? Do you wanna get down?
Welcome back to the Randy Tobler Show. Thanks for being with me all morning. If you haven't been able to get up bright and early and be with us since 6 o'clock, well, you can catch it on the podcast, and Quentin will be getting the podcast up. When's that going to happen, Quentin, so folks can listen in that weren't here earlier?
Well, I'm already
working. We've had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I'm already working on it now, so we'll see how long it takes.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Look at that. Look at that. On his toes is Quentin. Well, I know another guy that's on his toes all the time and up and with us today, and that's Joe Briccato, author of Hit It Off, 21 Rules for Mastering the Art and Science of Relationships in Life and Business. And it's good to talk to you again, Joe. Thanks for being with me.
No worries. Great to be here.
Hey, there's a lot of things that I think tie into the themes of your book and really emphasize how important establishing and maintaining good relationships are, in whether it's, our personal relationships, family, friends, or of course in the business realm. And I think on the larger sphere, when you talk about governance, some of the numbers coming out in terms of the attitudes of young Americans and perhaps what their ruling generation, if you will, those in our state and national capitals, the rules that they're making, they're not optimistic about the way the table's being set, are they? And they're not having babies because of it, because they have a very unsure future. What does that tell us about the importance of relationships between the governed and the governors?
Well, there are certainly effects of governing. It's not just economic ramifications. You're dealing with people's lives. You're dealing with their hope, their dreams. And we talk about things like the American dream and how many young people right now, at least, don't believe that they could attain the American dream is frankly sad. And I think that there's a paucity of leadership to a great extent right now to convey to young people that as long as America is alive and well, the American dream is alive and well. And when you look at job success, studies have shown that 85% of our success on the job is people skills, being able to deal with other people and understand other people and develop rapport. Only 15% is technical skills and knowledge. So people have to really harness all these skills, and that's exactly what my book helps people to do.
And the book, again, has hit it off, 21 Rules for Mastering the Art and Science of Relationship in Life and Business. Joe, they talk about, I think all of us, to one degree or another, with social media and sort of this implosion away from socialization into whatever device we happen to be connected to at the moment, has left a lot of people, especially our young generation. I mean, we see it in the suicide rates, we see it in depression and anxiety, but there's a hopelessness that's there. And I struggle with how we're going to get out of that. I mean, there's so many things that contribute to that, but a lot of people in the managerial world, not all of them old, by the way, I've been there, done that, struggle with the realities of trying to be empathetic with the needs of, let's say, work-life balance and so forth among, Gen Zers and millennials, and the need to get the job done, frankly. And there still seems to be some tension there. How can that be resolved with relationship management?
Well, a lot of what you're talking about is an acknowledgement that everyone, including younger people, need to make, is that there's a certain level of personal responsibility and work ethic to succeed. And you can't bury yourself into digital communication. A lot of the technology that, unfortunately, a lot of younger people are growing up with right now tends to bring people apart, not closer together. I'm sure a lot of the intent around technology was to bring people together, but it's pulling people apart to a great extent. Why? Because they're not having this concept of human connection. And we all know, you lived a little bit, you know that you can't get things done without other people. You just can't. And I think that, you mentioned about the hopelessness piece. There's a dichotomy of, with the hopelessness on one hand, and yet younger generations, I believe, have the world at their fingertips right now. With all the technology, there's some great things from that, and the work-life balance and focus on well-being. Prior generations didn't have that luxury. And so, our leaders, both political leaders and business leaders, really need to encourage young people to really, take the bull by the horns, if you will, and really make use of all of this benefit that they are inheriting from people who have worked really hard to keep us a free country, to have a prospering economy, et cetera, et cetera. And frankly, I think this generation, younger generations, are as close to the pursuit of happiness as anybody in the past. And they have to really harness what skills that are within their control to realize that. And I believe that developing skills with people and having a game plan backed by science, which is exactly what my book hit it off, 21 Rules for Mastering the Art and Science of Relationships in Life and Business, is really something that they can use to give them that game plan.
So it appears, Joe Briccato, the author of that book, as though maybe Matt Gaetz and, I don't know, 216 of his buddies, however many, 220 of his buddies, maybe didn't read your book before the before the disaster that was the goings on in D.C. I mean, I've never seen such a clown show. Have you? Gosh.
No, I have not, and I suspect that it's not going to be the last clown show we see, unfortunately. But I agree with you. I truly believe that, given the incivility we're witnessing just generally in the world, let alone in our political institutions, these 21 rules are really intended to help people achieve their goals in any relationship. And from politicians' standpoint, they're dealing with relationships within their own party. They're dealing with relationships across the aisle. They're dealing with a relationship with their constituency. And so, you really have to have a framework. And we have rules. We have playbooks for just about everything else, but unfortunately, we haven't had much of an example of people using a real good playbook to get along with other people in a very productive way. And I do believe if our politicians hit it off, and really harness the strength of the science behind these very common sense, intuitive things, we could frankly reinstill a lot of civility back into our political institutions.
I don't know. Maybe we're going to end up, no matter how ugly it all happened, maybe we're going to end up with an effective leader in the Republican conference that can get everyone together and have a little more unity. Because boy, I tell you, give the media and the left a chance to eat you alive from a PR standpoint, and they'll do it. And boy, you talk about loading the gun. That Republican conference did that last time. They needed to have a few
Well,
meetings before the meetings. I think. I don't know.
well, they should certainly all read my book, but I think that if they harness one overall concept, which is really the umbrella for my book, and it should be something they can very easily do right off the bat, is really apply critical thinking and mindfulness to their interactions with each other, period.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Yep.
It's really understanding to communicate effectively, carefully assess all the information, and be objective. And leave your predetermined biases and judgments at the door as much as possible. Only then can you have true communication, and only then can you have true leadership.
Okay, well, I don't want to. Yeah, look, I think that as long we should be equal opportunity critics, right? So, talk about tone deafness to being objective, to being empathetic, to being considerate. How about the occupants of the White House who watched their dog bite 12 Secret Service agents and then go after the groundskeeper before they finally get the bright idea? Well, maybe we got a problem here. Oh, how about it takes finally big city mayors and governors on their own side of the fence to cry uncle and say, hey, close the border. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, Joe. These people are like, I don't know what's in the air there in D.C., but it seems to make people blind to reality and to getting along in a rational way. I think the American people stand here and we look at this and we go, you guys have got to be kidding. And it does relate to mindfulness and taking a few deep breaths and looking at reality. And, I find it amazing that we can have that kind of leadership being that blind to reality. Don't you?
I do, and here's the thing. I think that we as the electorate need to hold our politicians to higher standards. We're in the best country in the world. We have the best political institutions in the world. Our framers got it right, I believe. And
Yeah.
I do believe that we have to distinguish between the system and the individuals involved. There are some very, very good people on both sides of the aisle. We don't want to make massive, characterizations about particular groups. But we do need to make sure that we have the right leaders in office, but it's incumbent upon us as the electorate to really have higher standards. And I believe that if we don't hold our leaders at least to the standard of applying critical thinking as I defined it, then what do we have? We have basically chaos because there are no standards at that point. If you can't think critically about a political issue, if you can't negotiate, whether with with a union or with someone on the other side of the aisle or whoever, people within your own party, then you literally have chaos. And we're frankly going to dismantle our political institutions right before our own eyes. But we are the electorate. We have the choice to vote in or out of certain people. And I think we have to really be the leaders, frankly, and set a good example by really holding them to a higher standard.
Well, Joe, you sound like an idealist, and I think I share some of that too in terms of human relations and, frankly, humility. It takes humility to be mindful and to get along with folks and to be very honest and frank, but in the right kind of way. I think of the UAW strike. My goodness, you've got people who are getting a paycheck from, yes, rich people, but I don't know about you, Joe, but I never got a paycheck from a poor person. They always were doing a lot better than me. I never resented it. I never would wear a T-shirt that said, eat the rich. I mean, I would never do that, okay? Similarly, we've come to a point where the market in CEOs, and this is going to get me in trouble with pure capitalists, but I think capitalism only survives with a certain degree of morality and humility in terms of, limitations. We've come to a point where, I mean, really, does any one human being, can they really justify, $50 million a year because you're sitting at the head of the board table? I mean, really? Especially when people can't pay their bills on the, down on the line. I mean, there's just seems to be this lack of ability that people look at another person's plight and go like, what can I do to make a difference? And really mean it. And I mean that on both sides of the fence, from the UAW workers to the people sitting in the boardroom. Am I right or wrong?
No, I think you're right. And I think it really comes down to, building trust within organizations. Trust is one of the key components of my book, and really aligning values and really respecting other people, and no matter how much money you make or don't make. And the only way you're going to get to compromise, whether it's in the strike or in Congress for any particular issue, is going to be how most people strike deals. I'm a deal guy. I've been an attorney now for more than 31 years. I do transactions. I get deals done. And there are always two sides, but the only way deals get done is if there is true respect, compromise, and an aligning of values. And these values need to be emphasized no matter who you are within an organization. And, by practicing active listening and practicing respect and building trust, even if it's, inch by inch by inch, you have to build that trust. And that's really what I would encourage everybody involved in the strike, just really actively listen to each other, really align values. We all want everybody to make a great living. We want everybody to prosper. And frankly, that should be the concept of the American dream. And we should want everyone to have that ability.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Joe Mercado, enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for having that with me. I know that callers, let's mix it up in the next break, next segment, because I know some of you will say, well, there are certain things I can't compromise on. Can't compromise on the sovereignty of the border. Can't compromise on law and order. Okay, that's a discussion for another time. Maybe next time we talk, Joe, we can talk about those line in the sand values that people can't yield on. All right.
I would love to. There are creative ways around that, and would love to discuss that. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's do it. We'll set it up. Quentin, why don't you set it up with Joe right now? Okay, we'll do that. Hey, thanks so much, Joe. Have a great rest of your weekend. All right, guys, that sets the table for your phone calls. Where is that line between, hey, let's get along and have a common goal, and let's agree on whatever we can agree on and move there, and where does it say no? There's so much difference. We just have to agree to disagree and get a divorce. I mean, there are some people that say it's time to have a divorce in this country. 314-912-1019. Randy Tobler with you. We'll be back in just a minute and wrap her up.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion from the voices you know and trust. News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com.
Hey, let's talk about your teeth. Let's talk about all of your oral health. Let's talk about the muscles around your teeth in the jaw. It's all so important. It all works as a unit. We talk about, coordinated function, whether it's politically or in this case, dental health. It's very important. And that's what they do at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. My friend, Dr. Daniel Cusimano, and his partner there in the dental world, Megan Dwyer, take such good care of you. I'm going to be seeing here next week. I can't wait to go out and visit and see what they're up to new. They're always looking at new and innovative ways to bring great care to things in and around your mouth. That's a new way of looking at dental care. It's not just about teeth. Oh, yeah, they do a great job on the teeth, and that's, in fact, their core business, of course. We're going to be talking to Daniel on the air here in a couple of weeks, I think, about what can be done if you're a grinder, if you're having TMJ, if you're having problems. And, of course, whatever they do, they have great respect, not only for that precision care, but for what's in your wallet. Don't want to see that go out up the window without great value. They deliver great value, have a great dental insurance plan if you want to opt into that. You can learn about it by talking to them, 978-0226, the number, or advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles at advanceddentistrynow.com.
Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer.
Hey everyone, this is Nick Schroer from Stand and Fight every Sunday 8 to 10 p.m. If you need tree removal, storm damage, repairs to trees, tree trimming, pruning, if your bushes are out of control, call River City Tree Service. Free quotes right now, 314-270-8071, 314-270-8071. Professional tree services performed by ISA certified arborists. Request your free quote at rivercitytreeservice.com.
This is Christina Strait with Strait Realty reminding you why pay more than 4. In 2003, we had a dream to start a real estate company that would revolutionize the real estate market. Now, 20 years later, after navigating through the many markets' ups and downs, we know exactly how to help you in this challenging time. I'm Christina Strait, owner of Strait Realty. Don't give away your hard-earned equity. Give us a call today, 314-441-4444, 314-441-all-4s. And remember, why pay more than 4?
Strait Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
Vincent's Jewelers can help you pick the best gift for someone special. Another reason I like Vincent's has helped raise more than $1.5 million for local charities. Vincent's, locally owned, serving the community more than 42 years. Whenever I'm asked, what's your favorite jewelry store? My only jeweler is Vincent's on Olive, east of 270. Give Vincent's a chance to make you happy. Check for daily specials. Vincent's Jewelers Facebook or vincentsjewelers.com.
St. Louis City, get ready to make history. Your City, Your Voice Town Hall is here, and it's more than you've ever seen before. Imagine this, Attorney General Andrew Bailey and Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft in person, side by side, hearing your concerns, taking on your burning questions. It's October 12th. Rally your neighbors, come and ask the questions that keep you awake at night. Visit stlouisrepublicans.com for details.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL.
Very strong partisans in both parties in the past, and we had very bitter battles over all kinds of things, gun control and climate change and the economy and taxes. But there wasn't this little tail of extremism wagging the dog of the Republican Party as it is today. And sadly, so many of those extremists, those MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump, who has no credibility left by any measure. He's only in it for himself. He's now defending himself in civil actions and criminal actions. And when do they break with him? Because at some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members, but something needs to happen.
Okay, there it is. The same woman who called you a bunch of people that need to be in the basket of deplorables from the same party whose two-term president said that you cling to your Bibles and your guns. Others in that party have talked about smelly Walmart shoppers. James Carville the other day with Bill Maher said they're just stupid. Now you need to be deprogrammed. And they wonder why there's polarization in this country. They wonder why hardworking, everyday Americans like you and me are resentful and think that these people are the devil. I think they're the devil if that's the way they're going to talk about us. Deprogramming. Hey, Quentin, what is this? What are they going to do? How are they going to deprogram us? Are they going to gather us up into like concentration camps and put the Matrix mind meld cap on us? And what do they have in mind? I mean, what does she have in mind?
I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't even know where to begin with this. I wouldn't.
I mean, there are ways, with technology to sort of subliminally do messages. You've seen that where if they can, Quentin, you probably know more about this than me. You're a tech guy, I know, but like I've seen stories where on the TV with the flash rate, they can like slip in commercial images selling you a product or whatever. You don't even know it because you're focused on whatever you're watching, but they flip these in between the flashes on the TV. So there's ways they can deprogram you. And heck, if they can convince Google and before he owned it, Twitter and others to omit information that we want to share with one another, why can't they infuse information that they think we need to have into our deprogrammed brain in the manner of reprogramming us? I mean, it can happen. It can happen, can it?
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at Instagram. I mean, I think it's the whole premise of creating some of these apps, not necessarily just a singular message, but I mean, you look at Instagram. It's a picture-based app that has created this disfigured image, self-image within a lot of females. I'd say, they're constantly comparing themselves to these filtered images of what they see as considered perfection. With all the guys commenting, underneath these photos of fake bodies and a fake lifestyle, but it's it's damaging a lot of females, young females growing
You're
up.
right, and it leads to a ton of depression and anxiety. Exactly. I can tell you, I have watched over the years, taking care of patients who just they strive and suffer and sacrifice and want to do things that are not helpful to their health in the long run to try to achieve that idyllic image, which is photoshopped. I mean, I'm frankly glad that a lot of the models have recently come out, the supermodels, sort of saying, I'm not doing the makeup thing. Here's what I look like when I get up in the morning. I wish there were more of that.
Yeah, I'm with you. But
yeah, well, we got to see. But this political deprogramming and reprogramming thing is very, very concerning. And when you have leaders, influencers in a political party thinking that somehow they know the way to be, and they're going to make sure one way or another, come heck or high water, that you will conform to what they view as proper behavior, proper belief, proper speech. I don't know if I've got time to get to it. I think, yeah, I've got a couple minutes here. I'm going to pop up a story that really caught my eye, and it revolves around a poll. And it just astounded me. And I'm going to try to find the numbers here. But I think it was a Rasmussen poll. Maybe it wasn't, but maybe it was a Pew poll. But basically, it got to the question of, oh, here it is. This is real clear politics, opinion research. Now, the concept of free speech is essential to our society, to this great experiment called the American way. And what's interesting is they did a poll, and it turned out that those under 30 are most open to censorship by the government. This is according to a poll that was reported on Real Clear Opinion. And this was they did a survey. Republican voters, 74%, and independents, 61%, believe speech should be legal under any circumstances. Only 74% of Republicans, which means Republicans don't really believe across the board in free speech. Nearly 1/3 of Democrat voters say Americans have too much freedom. I mean, we're at a time where we're at this tipping point. Are we going to be a people of free and independent thought and speech, tempered by a moral and religious people, like our founders said? Or are we going to be freewheeling, materialistic, post-human, whatever's in it for me is what's good for us because it's good for me? That's the question. And we'll be mixing it up as the weeks and months go on towards this next election. It's already time for us to say goodbye. I can't believe it. Take a listen to this last song, though. We play it for a reason every Saturday. Hope it launches a great weekend for you. Quentin, thank you, man.
No,
Look
thank
forward
you.
to seeing you all next Saturday.
Yes, sir.
And God willing, we'll be back then.
That's right.
See you then. Have a great weekend, guys.
With a glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me, as he died to make men holy. Let us live to make men free. While God is marching
AM station telling us what to say here. Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
We know you have lawns to mow, work sites to build, fields to manage, and jobs to finish. With over 100 years of experience, Seidenstricker Nobe will be with you every step of the way. Our customers are the center of everything we do. Find affordable pricing, low monthly payments, and easy financing options on all our John Deere equipment. With 27 locations to serve you, Seidenstricker Nobe Partners is your source for everything John Deere. snpartners.com.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
I'm here with Dr. Howard Wall. Howard, we're hearing a lot of debate over inflation, but just to back up a little bit, what is inflation?
Inflation occurs when the economy has too much money chasing too few goods. That extra money sloshing around has to go somewhere, and it ends up as higher prices for just about everything.
So what does transitory inflation mean?
Well, there are temporary things like pandemics, wars, and such that restrict supply and raise the prices of sensitive goods like oil. But the root cause of sustained inflation, like we've been seeing, is